Peace. Welcome everyone to Community. This is Chief UDI speaking, and I want to welcome you, of course, all the time. I want to welcome you new folk, and I want to welcome you long-time listeners and all that other good stuff. You know, I go through that spiel every time, but it means something every time. All right. Let me get my audio set up here for a second because I'm hearing things are funny. I think I know why too. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. So that probably cleared, or at least should have cleared some things up. But if not, just let me know. All right. But I'm being told YouTube is breaking and Blog Talk. So then that means I'm pushing the limits all over the place. All right, but you all okay? It's clear now. Okay, cool. You know what it is? I think what it was right before the show started, I was looking through. You know how I always play like these old songs and stuff like that I have on my hard drive. Sometimes during the show, just as like a little support for whatever it is that I'm talking about. And I can always find something that I've done in the past musically that will. Blog Talk is still breaking, Anwar says. Okay, so how can I do this on Blog Talk? I think on Blog Talk, I have to hang up and call back. I think that's the only way to fix the Blog Talk. So I'm going to give it a couple of seconds, Brother Anwar, and you let me know, or anyone else, if Blog Talk is still funny. If it is, then I'm going to hang up on the Blog Talk and call back. That's really the only option I have over there when I want to fix it. It's not, there's really no controls or anything. You could just hang up and try again. Hopefully you get a better connection, next time. All right. So, everyone just let me know, or whoever's listening over there, just let me know if it clears up or if it's still messed up. All right. But all right, I'll wait till I hear anything. And yeah, so anyway, I was just thinking, I got distracted for a moment. Today I think I ran into a student today. And I think she knew it was me. I ran into someone in the store today, and it just flashed through my mind just now while I was talking. And I told y'all how I am. Sometimes I pretend like I ain't see you, but I kind of halfway recognize the person from with a profile picture on Shadul House. And they were staring at it, kind of like, those look like, is it him? And I just kind of kept moving. So, but yeah, I might have been wrong too. It might not be the student at all, but I know that it just passed through my mind that it might have been the person. But anyway, yeah. So the blog talk is still funky. Just let me know. And no deal on blog talk. I mean blog talk lowercase. I guess by no deal you mean it's messed up. Come on, I don't understand the street slang. 757, you're on the air.
Oh yes. You're breaking up real bad.
Breaking up. Okay. All right.
And
thank
I
you.
had hung up and called back in, and it's still breaking up.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to hang up and call back. Okay, thank you, sis. I appreciate that. I'm gonna hang up. Just stay on. It's not gonna knock you offline, but I'm gonna kick myself offline and I'm gonna call right back. All right. Thanks. Cool. All right. So I'm gonna keep this going. We're gonna keep it going. And while it's going, just everyone give me a moment. Bear with me. I don't like to start the shows and everything's jacked up and I'm doing all this talking. All right. So just give me a second. And let me just give me a second to hang up on Blog Talk and call back. I think it'll clear up.
Adura Yami Oshoronga. Emojuba Yami Oshoronga. Otono.
Start your show now, press 1 to hear.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
Emojuba Yami Oshoronga. Otono Ejenu Atokonjedo. Mojuba Yami Oshoronga. Otono Ejenu Atokonjedo. Eje woye ni kale o. Eje woye ni kale o. Oh ye koko. Oh ye koko.
All right. So I'm back. I just needed a moment to hang up and call back on Blog Talk, and hopefully everything is clear over there now. If not, then I'll just call in on Blog Talk on Skype. I don't want to keep pausing because of tech issues, especially because we're going to be getting ready to get the Blog Talk thing. Anyway, in a moment. So, oh, you see I'm sorry, I'm laughing what I just saw in the chat room. Brother Byron just said, what could motivate someone to give this segment a thumbs down 2 minutes in? Oh, man. I needed that laugh. Yeah, you see how it is? I'm glad you saw it. I didn't know you could see the thumbs down from your side, because I can't see what you're seeing when you're watching the show. But you gotta laugh, right? See what I'm saying? Now you see I'm not crazy. Man, I got a thumbs down already. Now let's see what could have. Let me see. At this point, what could be the thumbs down? Because I didn't start immediately because I wanted to make sure the audio was okay. That could be one reason. Maybe they didn't like the music. That could be another reason. Let's see what else. All you can do is laugh because you can't. To try to sit here and figure it out and try to make sense of insanity will make you insane. But you're absolutely right. I'm just laughing because I never knew that you all could see it on your side. Like I always see the thumbs down, after the show. And sometimes I do notice like people with thumbs something down just from the title. They don't even know. I've had people who have commented on shows and argued about the show and even disrespected me, and the show didn't even air yet, just from the title. So yeah, I needed that laugh. Thank you, Brother Byron. And I know it's crazy. Obviously that's something that someone could have a different kind of reaction. But, like I always say, you choose your reaction. So I could choose to, I could choose anything. But for me, I choose humor. I choose humor. Sometimes you have to have an out-of-body experience and kind of sit back and look at the human condition. And when you look at the human condition, you start to understand why your elders sometimes tell you that God has a sense of humor. When you see things like that, you pull back and you just say, man, this is hilarious. Look at this. Yeah, man. It's all good. It's all good. I always tell you, I don't care about thumbs down. And this is one of the reasons, man. This is one of the reasons why you can't care about things like that sometimes, man, because like I always tell you, you never know the mental state of the person that's listening. Sometimes we tend to take those things for granted, thinking that people are in a certain space or maybe even in a similar space to where we are. And when they perform the most illogical of acts, we try to draw logic from it, which just draws us deeper into insanity, because the pull of that confusion, and just that insanity sometimes is much stronger than the ever loosening grip we have on our own sanity. So that's when you have to know just to pull back, laugh, and say, okay, all right, no problem. Just pull back from it a little bit, man. So let me just say, yeah, man, ekui role, all right, which is good evening to everyone. That's the extended form. When we say good evening, a lot of times in our Yoruba, we may say ekale, but or sometimes you'll say, some people say ikuro, okule, but that's a shortened form of eku irole. Okay, so I just say good evening to everyone, and even those whoever threw the thumbs down in there, it's all good, man. Thank you for the thumbs down. Actually, let me just say that. Thank you for the humor. Thank you for giving me something to laugh about. But yeah, man, we've been hitting some good things today. I mean, they're strong in terms of topic. I'm even thinking about today. I had a lot of very good sessions today, and definitely saw some plateaus reached today in the work. I definitely will that those of you who've been putting your own work in, that you've been hitting some plateaus, ready to push beyond, change up things, reinstitute new things into your formulas in order for you to receive some of those new things at your next plateaus delivered to you as well. I definitely will that you're embracing that in this season and in this time, and moving beyond the latitudinal surfaces of your plateaus and looking for those longitudinal steps and reaches that you can take once again to get where you need to be. And like we spoke about yesterday, so often we neglect the idea that in order to bring that change into our lives, to ascend, keep going up that mountain or that ladder or whatever, metaphor that you use for your journey, that that you are in fact making sure that you're elevating, you're ascending, you're upgrading, as opposed to just constantly taking latitudinal steps. And it's just like sometimes when we go in a circle, I often tell you all that try to imagine life as more of a spiral than a circle. I know we use it, the circle of life, and we even have some nice pretty songs about the circle of life, and it's so pretty and everything like that, and that's cool. That's cool, man. But I know there's no songs about the spiral of life, but just replace circle with spiral. When you hear the songs and things that when people say, well, everything goes around, it comes around, goes around. Life is just one big circle. Just try to say life is just one big spiral. So I'm either going to spiral upwards or I'm going to fall downwards. But either way, I'm going to be making longitudinal and latitudinal movements all the while, and so there has to be, for us, those of us who have fallen to the dust and are looking to rise again beyond Irupe or the dust, but looking to ascend beyond that, then we want to be looking to make, obviously, some upwardly mobile movements and steps in our work. And as we spoke about, yesterday, in order to do that, a lot of times you got to institute new things into your psyche. New things, but new things. Excuse me, I was listening to some other kind of music earlier, but some new things into your psyche that will help to bring that about, man. So, like I said, I just will that a lot of you have been able to do that, man, and do that with boldness and courageous, coming to the seat of your own power, or as we say in Meridin Logun, we say, Odi Meji. Gloria says, peace, Chief. Without Blog Talk, I have to rely on Wi-Fi, and the way my data is set up, I can't connect right now. Aw. Aw. Well, check this out here, GC. There are some people who will go and buy cable, like cable or what are they, DirecTV or satellite, whatever, just for a show that they like. They'll just go get HBO or get Showtime or whatever. I don't have cable, so I got all my references are old. There's probably new channels out now. Stars, right? There's one. I know that's one because Power's on Stars. It might go get Stars to go just to watch Power. Okay, so you might have to go and give whatever bootleg phone service you're working with an extra $5 a month to get a little bit more data on your plan, so so you can tune into YouTube. All right. So I know you want to support local businesses and with the cheap phone service you're using, but throw that person that extra $5 and you get a little bit of extra data. All right. I'm sorry. I'm not keeping Blog Talk. All right. I can't satisfy everyone. Yeah. Blog Talk is, it's cool, but let me keep it real with you all. Let me keep it real, man. I don't want to talk to everybody. And unless I have someone, which I did in the beginning when we first started doing Chief Speaks, I had engineers working the back end, which was kind of cool because for those of you remember when you used to call in, you would call in and they would ask you what your call was about. And that allowed us to weed things out. But a lot of times, I do the shows, I'm traveling, I'm on the go and stuff like that. So, I don't, I try to make it a one-man show sometimes just because I'm moving around so much. And I'm always trying to figure out ways to, I know this sounds foul to some of you, but I'm gonna say it. I oftentimes try to find ways to use technology to replace people. I know, but I'm a tech head. So as opposed to bothering people, say, hey, could you engineer the show for me? Can you help me out? Whatever. I'll just, I'll figure out a way to set up my screens, maybe have dual screens set up, and I can just do everything myself. But what that causes now, I can't screen the calls, on Blog Talk. So sometimes I get local yokels calling in who I don't really want to talk to. I just keep it real with you, plain and simple. I don't want to talk to them. They're not saying things that are moving us towards where we need to be. Sometimes I get people who call in who just want to grandstand, but they ain't really talking about anything. They're just so excited because they learned something last year and they just assume that nobody else knows it, but it's just a distraction. So though I do enjoy certain calls, I enjoy when there's an engagement and when someone calls in and they have a real issue. And, we're really able to get through it, however it looks, whether it looks ugly, whether it looks pretty, doesn't matter to me, as long as you get the medicine and, you got the medicine and you take it in. I do appreciate that part of it. But truth be told, for most of the things that people would call in and ask about and inquire about at this point, a lot of them have been covered already. Kind of if you really go back, between shows and archives, questions like, well, how do I build an altar? Wrote a book on it. How do I connect to my ancestors? Did about 5 shows on it and wrote a book on it. Like some of the more redundant questions, a lot of them have been addressed already. So for me personally, I know like when Kim is on, you guys calling and y'all joke and have a good time and everything like that. And that's good, but I'm not really the good time guy. I know that, so I know how to play my position, and truth be told, sometimes if the calls are not responsible, they can be a huge distraction to whatever it is that we're building on. And that's when you start to learn and recognize and respect your position, so if people are connecting with you for a certain healing that you bring, and you may be doing something or allowing something that disrupts that healing, then in many senses, you're being irresponsible. Believe it or not, you're being irresponsible. I noticed there's plenty of times when people have called in and, maybe people have had very long drawn out dreams, for instance, or they've asked questions that I've given them the answer to, and they're not listening. So it elongates the actual call. It goes much longer. And there are other people listening like, man, can we get to it? And sometimes the answer that I give the person is getting to it, but then sometimes, it's an unnecessary distraction. But, you got to understand that a lot of times people will have this idea like, oh, Chief, just ignore that person and keep teaching. It doesn't work like that. And I shouldn't be required to have to do that. Because after a while, what happens when you always have to suppress, the disruption that somebody is presenting. I mean, that's why sometimes you have teachers and I worked in education, I know. Sometimes you have teachers that go off and just beat the mess out of students. They just get so sick and tired of it after a while. You may just have that one disruptive student that just bothers you all the time. And and then those type of students will always do the same thing. They'll say, go ahead, teach, go ahead, teach. I'm not bothering you. Then they start giving you orders. Well, and you say, well, listen, if you could just be quiet, I could continue on with the class. Go ahead. So they start trying to antagonize you by giving you orders. Matter of fact, the story I told y'all that time about the young man who I had to pull into the room and was like, yo, I don't want to incriminate myself further, but, that's what he did. That was the straw that broke my back when because after he was getting rude, then he was like, go ahead, Papa. He was calling me Papa, instead of Baba. He was like, teach, Papa. Go ahead. Say what you need to say. Go ahead. And I was like, oh, no. No, we're not doing that. You're not going to sit here and insult me. And then when I highlight it, then you're going to start giving me orders. All I just saw was like, I'm going to break this kid's neck, literally, or call my sons to come over here and jump him. But so yeah, sometimes you have to clear the air of some of that stuff before you can actually get yourself in a good and healthy space to teach and to keep going and things like that, man. So sometimes that's part of the responsibility. And women, really think You know, I'm not just think about what I'm saying to you, sisters. You know, and I'm saying that in light of what we spoke about on the phone call the other night. You know, so you know what I'm talking about. You know, if there is a aberrant substance or energy that's in the room that's making people feel uncomfortable or taken away from the good energy or the healthy bonding energy that could be there, you know, sometimes you got to get rid of that and you got to clear the air. And a lot of times you have to shake that energy of that spirit off of you before you can keep going. So if you have a certain vibration and energy that's in the room and that energy somewhat attaches onto your aura, and then the energy leaves, you know, and then people say, well, just ignore that, keep going. But you're connected to the reality that there's still a stench in the room. And maybe there's even a stain that's on your aura. You may have to do certain things to shake it off of you. And that may mean maybe you might raise your voice a little bit and you might use profanity, because profanity is so valuable to get things off of you. You know, man, you want to understand a little bit better. Watch the Step and Razor documentary. Step and Razor, you know, that was Peter Tosh's documentary, and he speaks about the use of the word bumbleclot and the sacredness of bumbleclot. You know, and you know, well, I won't tell you what a bumbleclot is, like what it is, but you know, just go by the word sound. So any of you who have been around Caribbean people, maybe you have heard the word used before, didn't know what it meant, but you just knew somebody was angry when it was being used. But a lot of terminology that holds a very divine value becomes profanity in a society or in a social structure that is directly anti-nature and anti-spirit. So you have to be careful. Like I often tell you, what this society tells you not to do, usually the best thing to do is just do the opposite. Or at least even if you're too scared to do the opposite, research the opposite. If they tell you this word is a curse, you better learn what that word means. You know, they say, oh, well, fornication under consent of the king. You know, that's a curse. Fornication under consent of the king. Well, if I start to research that, and well, why would the king, or you know, why would there be two kinds of fornication, or two kinds of fornication? One that I can do under consent of the king, and one that I may do that may be against legislation. What kind of fornication is against legislation? Like, what kind of society came up with that idea? You know, so sometimes you start digging into, and again, for that word, just look at the acronym. Just take the first letter of each thing I just said. Fornication under consent of the king, and you'll understand. But like I said, sometimes it's good and it's powerful to research the opposite, man. You know, to research the opposite. You know, Michelle says, well, I grew up in Jamaica, Queens. I was told that it meant a waste of life. No, not really. In a sense, I guess you could almost say that. I'll just say this because it's almost like what you said, a waste of life. Clot is cloth. So bumbleclot is a cloth. So it's actually more of a reference to like a cloth that a woman would use during her menses. Okay. So that's why you could say, oh, it's kind of like a, you know, waste of life in that sense. But, you know, it takes so many different meanings. Just like in the States, we use the term mother effer a lot. And I mean, how many different things does mother effer mean? You know, we don't know. It's just like 500 different things depending on the context, depending on the inflection. So that's a similar word. But again, a lot of those words, a lot of times, are really good when you need to clear the air. I'm starting to break up again. Good. General Grievous. All right, let's see. I'm doing a little trick here. All right. Hopefully I'm better now. You know, it's if you all have noticed, I don't know if you picked up on it yet, but most of the time when it's all that breaking up, it's at night. Like when we do the 9 p.m. shows. And the reason being, well, I'm guessing the reason is within your Blog Talk structure, they let you know that I think it's from 9 to 11, Those are the prime time hours. So essentially, more people are on during that time. Essentially, so I guess it puts more of a strain on the actual system between those hours. Okay, yeah, exactly, Byron. Sometimes you might say Bumba for short, right? Or you might say Rosclot, and sometimes you may say Ross for short. You know, but yeah, man, it's not per se bad words. I know some people listening may feel offended, but like I've said so many times, the only curse in the English language is damn, and that's determined upon how you use it. If you use it to damn someone, then it becomes an actual curse. But outside of that, you may have words that are a bit more harsh or maybe more profane than others in a sense, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're saying something illicit, or you're saying something unrighteous, or again, if you're saying something that is cursing another person. Damn that thumbs down. I'll do that on Anwar, because chances are whoever gave that thumbs down is one of those people in the chat room. That's why when you say peace and you welcome everybody, you got to welcome your friends and your enemies, because they're always close. They're always close by, man. It's all good. It's all good, man. I told you something before, man. If you don't get a thumbs down, I mean, you ain't said nothing. All the thumbs down mean is, yo, you saying something that's gonna make me have to change, or that music you played in the first 2 minutes is gonna make me have to change, or you used the word negus, and negus had to, whatever it is, but you made me feel uncomfortable, because if I say a whole bunch of things that people agree with, man, yeah, it's all thumbs up, man. It's all good. When you say things that people agree with in that sense, man, and yeah, Tareem, I know that theory as well. Mother F comes from the slave sex farms when they stopped getting slaves. I'm reading what he said. Tareem Thomas says, Mother F comes from slave sex farms when they stopped getting slaves from Africa, and they made the slave have sex with their mothers and other family members. Yeah. I definitely have heard that one as well. But I'll just throw this in there too. There's a phraseology in Bantu, in the leg of Bantu, which we know, Kiswahili, the leg of the Kiswahilic form of Bantu, where you have a word that it's said exactly like that. Mother effer, the same way we say it, and it doesn't mean that. So it kind of gives you an idea already that actual word sound is older than that idea. If and it's a good documentary you should check out anyway. And it's on YouTube, because someone sent me a link for it recently. I saw it a while ago. I saw it like maybe 15 years ago. I had a little tape of it, but now it's on YouTube, which is cool. It's called Panthers, or I think it's A Panther in Africa. All right, you might want to check that out, right? And I know it's on YouTube. I don't remember the link. Maybe I'll find it, put it in the chat room. But there's a scene in it where this brother, he's and let me put this out there, man, as I'm sharing that too. The brother and sister you'll see in that documentary, man, they have some land out in Tanzania. They're in Tanzania, and real solid elder, man, real solid elder. After you watch the documentary, if anyone has any interest in linking with them, just reach out to me on Sadula House. I'll give you the rundown on them. How you can make that linkage. But they have land out there, and they have a cultural center, and they're trying to do the work out there. They are previously exiled. Well, he was kind of both of them, but exiled Black Panthers. So they've been out there for years upon years upon years upon years. But it's a good little documentary, and he just kind of shares what his life is like in Tanzania, and the life of his wife, and just some of the challenges, some of the ideas that he has had surrounding going back to America, and if he still considers himself to be American, or if he doesn't really identify with that idea anymore, of being an American and missing home. And then you see at one part his mother comes to visit him, and at the time of the documentary, he was 63, I think. So, his mother was, she was a little up there in age, but she was able to make the trip to go see him and everything like that, so, it even, it's a good documentary, I feel, because, for me, for someone who has been East and West in terms of the continent, I have, spent a lot of time, in Tanzania. I have also spent a good amount of time in Kenya as well, and of course West Africa as well. Watching the documentary, there was a lot of things that were like, it was really indicative of how it is, being out there, what it's like being out there in that sense. So, I thought it was pretty good because. Like I said, it came out a while ago. When it first came, it was a good while ago. I think maybe, maybe 2000. I think it was like 10 years ago I saw that. But I know, so it's been out since like maybe 2005, 2006, something like that. Somewhere around there, maybe even before then. But, like I said, the brother and his wife being out there, and I thought it showed a real good perspective on what it's like being on the continent, and of course just the whole idea of walking away, and if anybody is from, I don't know how familiar some of you are with the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, but the brother's name is Geronimo Pratt. If you have ever heard about Geronimo Pratt, but so he had went out there, he was facing a gun charge back in the days, and if you all remember, well, if you know the history, maybe some of you are old enough to remember, a lot of times they were locking up the Panthers, man, for a long time over little BS charges, like little shotgun charges, saying that they robbed places that were like 50 miles away from where they were to, do all kind of stuff. Oh, you took this bank down too, and y'all did that. So a lot of them just left. A lot of them went to the continent. A lot of them went to Cuba, and found asylum there. But they just was like, nah, man, I'm not going to sit here and, I know your justice, your criminal justice system is a criminal justice system. So I'm not even going to put myself through that process. I'm just going to leave, and many left, and like Stokely Carmichael, and, later then applied, to be able, for amnesty to be able to come back. But, the documentary kind of goes through a little bit of that too, man. So, like I said, you might want to check that out, man. For those of you who want to get that. But we're all just talking about, for those of you coming in, the word mother effer. And it's like I said, I don't want to tell the whole scene because I want to encourage you to watch it. I'm also trying to lean you towards it. But there was a cool little scene in it. I think it was towards the beginning where he's building with a Tanzanian brother, and they're talking about that word. He was teaching him something, and the brother was saying the word, and he was like, "What?" He said, "Say that word again." And he said it, and he was like, "Oh," he's like, "Well, where I'm from, that word means something completely different," So yeah, man, a lot of times, man, that the word sound and the phrasing and the inflection of certain words that have been bastardized and villainized, even in this society, they hold a great power. They hold a lot of substance and a lot of moving power for us, in terms of our people. Yeah, man. I see everybody's giving Deanna, strong mind, strong body fitness shout out to the chat room tonight. See the value of a good profile picture? Yeah. Work it, girl. But anyway, I'm messing with you. I'm just joking with you. Kinda. But yeah, man. So, like I said, we've been building on change, and I'm keeping tonight pretty light, man. I just, when I do these segments, man, it's not always about me banging you in the head every single day with something to go study or whatever. Even though you may end up with something to study. Like Lo says, she got that glow. Yeah. Be careful. Be careful with that one there. She got a lot of oil in her too. But yeah, man. But then again, Lo, you got a lot of Ogun in you. So have at it. So yeah, the thing is, man, in that sense, sometimes it's just about the fellowship. Sometimes, I'm big on creating spaces, man, creating moments. So sometimes it's just being able to create a space where y'all can get into the chat room. Hey, what's up, peace? How you doing? Checking in with each other and trading email addresses. Block Talk's breaking up. Okay. Let's check it. Tell me again in another maybe 30 seconds. And then we'll see if it's still messing up. Thank you for that too, Anwar. If it's still messing up on Blog Talk side, I'll just I'll call in on Skype. That's my other option. I got like four or five options. Then I also can just call in on my cell phone on Skype. I mean, not Skype, on Blog Talk, man. Yeah, all y'all does do Ogun dirty, but breaking up on Blog Talk, still breaking up. All right, let's see. I'm wondering if I should just call, because if I fix Blog Talk, I'm gonna get a thumbs down. If I take time to stop Blog Talk right now and fix it, then everyone's gonna get mad at me. All right, still breaking up. All right, so I'm gonna do that on Blog Talk, everybody. So we're not going anywhere. Hold tight. It's just I don't like to keep going when one side is messing up. All right, so just give me a second here. I'm gonna actually, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make this quick. I'm gonna open up my Skype now. So that way, by the time I call into Blog Talk, I could do it quick. All right. Yeah, so just give me a second on the Blog Talk. All right. I'm gonna open up my Skype. I'm Skyping. Sometimes Skype does me a little better. Sometimes. It's weird. It's weird the way it works. But yeah, man. So there's other places other than West Africa, but what you find, it's clear now. Oh, okay. Yeah. So scratch that. I'll just keep Skype going in the background just in case we need it. All right. I know y'all heard all of that. See, the way I got my stuff set up, I got all my audio from my computer pumping through like a mixer, a digital mixer. And then that mixer is sending everything out to Blog Talk and everything else. So you hear everything. You hear all my error messages, all of that. All right. But yeah, man. So, again, that ideology, of instituting, hi, hope you're doing well. And now I'm getting Skype. Hold on, let me close Skype then. I'm sorry. Now people want to talk to me on Skype. Let me close it. I told y'all I'm shady. People trying to talk to me, I pretend like I don't see the message. I'm doing the show. Come on. They say, Chief, I thought I could have sworn, Chief. I could have thought I saw you pop up on Skype, and I sent you. You sent me a message? Nah, you sent me a message. No, I didn't pop up on Skype. You weren't on Skype last night? I don't go on Skype at night, especially on Wednesday nights. I never go on Skype on Wednesday night. I only use Skypes on Sunday mornings around 4 a.m. Then I get off. Yeah, I'll make up something. Well, yeah, man. Hey, peace, Bobby Jones. I see you say, greetings. I am just going to listening. All right, brand new. Bobby Jones Gospel. I know you probably hear that. You're probably sick and tired of hearing that, right? I know people say that when they see your name, Bobby Jones. Bobby Jones Gospel. But you could have put Robert Jones and got away from that, or Bob Jones. So maybe you wanted us to say Bobby Jones Gospel whenever we saw your name. All right, yeah. Peace to you, though, Brother Bobby. Welcome. But yeah, man. Yeah, y'all know. See, look at everybody who knows who Bobby Jones is. Yeah, a bunch of undercover Christians here in the room. I kind of sound like Bobby Jones, don't I? Hey, all right. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. That was wonderful. Here we have Ty Tribbett. Ty Tribbett, you're so handsome, Ty Tribbett. Ooh, praise the Lord. Yes, sir. That's how he used to talk. I used to listen to, I'm like, doesn't anybody else hear this? No one's going to say anything? He's sitting up here in this sequin suit jacket with all his lip gloss smeared all over his lips. All right. Yes. Come on, man. Stop ignoring it. It's a problem with our community now, man. We know we ignore too much stuff, man. You know, keep it real. Y'all knew what time it was. Just like Don Cornelius, the secular evil twin of Bobby Jones. He's the worldly Bobby Jones. Don Cornelius. Hey, man, I'm going to tell y'all a funny Don Cornelius story. Why not? Because it's the nighttime session, right? I'm going to tell y'all something funny. This I have never shared online before, all right? But, you know, Wednesday nights always give you a little something. And he's probably like, when's he going to get to the nighttime negus? This is a nighttime negus. Deal with it. So, back in the days, right, I used to play for this, because some of you know I'm a musician, right? I used to play for this artist called Al B. Sure, old school R&B dude. A lot of y'all don't know who he is. He's a radio show host now. But back in the days, like, he was like, he had a little run there where he was like every little, you know, girl's heartthrob for a little while. You know, he had some hits, and Al used to come out in a tight acid wash jean suit, curly. He had curly hair. He had a unibrow, which I found out later women actually find that attractive. I thought that was something you wanted to shave off, but apparently that unibrow is an attractive thing. So, you know, he had the look until Christopher Williams came and kind of, you know, did away with Al. But anyway, so we had to go out to California to do Soul Train. He was doing Soul Train. So he was like, yo, you know, time I couldn't go. I was in school when I was playing for Al, actually. And so he was at the shop, you know, some of you know I used to own a barber shop. So he was at the shop, right? And we were just talking about it, right? So I can't believe I'm telling y'all this. And I just feel like I want to say it out loud. So I'm not just telling y'all, I'm just saying it because it's funny. So, right? Oh, man, don't start with the messages. That might be Al Sure right there. Don't tell that story. So, right? So this is what happens. We in the shop, right? So Al used to cut his own hair. But I would still cut, even though I was still playing, everybody knew I cut hair. So when we were out doing shows or we were on tour or whatever, I would still bring my clippers. But Al, for some reason, liked to cut his own hair. And he used to give himself the worst haircuts. Now that I told you, go back and look at the album covers, you're going to see. But he had that curly stuff, so he could just play it off with the curls. But he always had a messed up. He only had one good haircut, and that was for his first album cover, the Night and Day album cover, because guess who cut it? But anyway, so we in the shop, right? And his man, I'm not gonna say his manager name because it's still my man. He's still in the industry. He's still high up, so we're gonna leave him out of it. So, but his manager, I known him since they all knew me since I was real young, you know. And they all, you know, so we all cool, you know. So he's like, yo, oh man, I forgot I gotta order these flowers. So I'm like, order for who? What you ordering flowers for? You know, this is before, like, you can go on the internet and just, you know, app, you can order flowers or whatever. He was like, yo, we got to send down these flowers. So I was like, what do you mean you got to send down flowers? Now, you know, I'm still, at the time, I'm still like, because at this time I wasn't producing yet. I was still just a session musician. A session musician is just someone who basically plays studio sessions. So, you know, like, if you need, then I was playing more bass. So if you need somebody, you know, come in and play some live violin or live bass or something like that, you know, there was a session rate, which is basically $250 a day back then, you know. But I got a lot of work as a session musician because I had my own transportation. I always showed up on time. I was reliable, and I knew how to read music, which was kind of a plus. So, you know, I got to meet a lot of people doing that. And then once in a while I would do some live shows as well. So we talk, so, but I'm still trying to learn the business at this time because I was also getting jerked really, really bad back then and didn't know it. So I would always be kind of ear hustling. So I'm like, what you got to send flowers for? What's that about? And he was like, oh, nah, man, it's a Don thing, Don Cornelius thing. And I'm like, what do you mean it's a Don Cornelius thing? So here's the deal. I feel like a little gossip. I feel like a chatty patty, but this is funny. So he was like, yo, when Don brings someone on the show, I'm just gonna put it out there, man, that he likes. We'll just say like, because like could mean anything, right? Right? So we'll just say that he likes. He requires that they bring him a bouquet of roses. So of course I started laughing. Now one thing that a lot of people don't know about Al is that, if you look at you're probably gonna go look at some old 80s videos of Al B. Short. He looked almost kind of soft, right? Like, because he sung in falsetto, but he had a real deep speaking voice. But Al was a football player. Like, Al wasn't a soft person. He wasn't, he wasn't queer or anything like that. He just sung like that. And he was a pretty boy. He had the curly hair and, like real chiseled kind of features, you know what I'm saying? Like strong eyes and all that. He's one of them pretty boys, right? So I'm picturing big old Al, like handing this bouquet of roses, like on one knee to Don Cornelius so that he could go on stage, So of course I just started cracking up laughing. So that's really the whole story. But I just thought it was funny, and then I started thinking about all the other pretty boys who I saw on Soul Train. I was like, yo, so I guess they had to, that's the stuff we talk about in the industry. Now that's light, what I'm sharing with you, but that's the stuff we talk about when they say, oh yeah, they got to do all these kind of rituals to get on and the Illuminati and stuff. That's the beginning of it, right? When you have to give, you're a heterosexual man and you have to give roses to another quote unquote heterosexual man. What does that kind of do to you? What does that open you up and get you started for later on down the road? Now I know Al wasn't going for that, and as you can see, he had a strong run for a couple of years, and that was it. Because maybe he wasn't trying to keep giving up the roses or give up his rose, be deflowered, the brown rose. So yeah, man, I just thought it was always funny, man. That whole little thing. I don't know how we just got all the way to that, but we nighttime traveling. But that was one of there's a lot of funny things that happened my time in the industry. But honestly, all the funny things, that one was one of the things that just kind of like, and it was funny to me because no one else in the room was like as like as disgusted by it. And I was like, what? Like I just was like, you bugging, you kidding? I thought it was I was like, you joking, right? He's like, nah, yo, we gotta get them. If we show up to LA, because we New York dudes. So they're like, yo, we got to get these before we get on the flight. We got to have them. Like, we show up to LA without these. Because at the time, I don't know if they still film, if they, but Soul Train filmed out in LA. It's like, yo, if we show up to LA without the flowers, man, it's going to be a problem. I'm still laughing. I'm just remember Al's face, like Al just looking at the floor, shaking his head, like, like I just want to sing. I just want to write my songs and sing. Like, I didn't know I was going to have to do all this. So yeah, man, sometimes you got certain experiences that begin to kind of open you up, those little, no pun intended, breaking up again. Okay, well, on YouTube, and let me do my magic so I can, on YouTube, okay, wow, it must be because my YouTube thing just froze. Uh-oh, I can't even fix it right now. All right, let's see what happens. I knew I shouldn't have told that story. Darn it. All right, everybody's telling me it's breaking up. All right, I can't fix it just yet. All right, give me a second, everybody. And all right, hopefully that's better. Hopefully it fixed. darn it. You know why that audio messed up, man. I shouldn't have told that story. I shouldn't even have said anything. All right, hopefully it cleared up. I don't know if it cleared up yet or if it's still breaking up, but yeah, man, maybe I should have kept that story to myself. Oh man, I never tell those type of stories. I usually keep that stuff to myself. Okay, it's clear now. Okay. Yeah, man. I should have kept it to myself. That's what happened. Yeah, that was the soul music gods. They was like, yeah, you're gonna stop. You're gonna stop right now before you say something you're not supposed to say. Yeah, or that could have been the ghost of Don Cornelius. That could have been his spirit. It's like, all right now, you better stop it. You better go ahead with that. All right now. Because I was fierce. I was fierce in my day. Yeah, let me stop, man, for my whole setup here blow up on me, man. All right, Don, I'm sorry about that, man. I'll bring you some. Nah, I ain't gonna promise that, but you might try to make me bring you some flowers. But yeah, man. So it opens you up to things, but keep your mind open, man. You want new things, you got to do new things sometimes, But sometimes those stale compromises can be an issue too. What I wanted to share a little bit with you all, because I told you I was gonna keep it light tonight, man. I got someone had expressed to me recently, like, man, Chief, I'm really like, now that you've really been white roses for the brown roses. See, I knew I shouldn't have said nothing to y'all. You know what? I forgot how I forgot how y'all are. That's why I be keeping stuff to myself. I know I should have said nothing. But yeah, that'd be my last end, because I got some doozies. I could write a book. That'd be my last industry story. But actually I was gonna keep it light tonight, man, and I wanted to share something on there was an herb that I was thinking about earlier today. Well, I was getting ready to use it for something, and I had spoken about it before. Actually, it's in one of the rituals in our new spiritual training, which also leads me to another thing that let me bring up that's real important, really, really important. I need to kind of cover real quick. Many of you have probably noticed on the Sadula House website that a lot of your classes are missing. Well, all of them, with the exception of our new spiritual training classes. All right. We were updating, was working with some of the developers of some of the technology on the site, some of the classroom technology, and some of the courses got removed that were not under the head administrator's name, which is me, on the site. Anything that was not created by me had a problem. All right. So you didn't lose your courses, quote unquote, but we're restoring them now. And some of them we're going to have to restore by hand. I'm feeling they're working on it now to restore from some of the backups from the site. But I think there was an issue with some corruption. So we may have to do some of them by hand. All right. So just so all of you know, that's what's going on in the site. That's why things may look a little funny or look a little bit different. And part of this is because I didn't shut the site down to do these upgrades. Remember I was telling you guys before, like, yeah, I could have shut the site down for a day or two to do the upgrades, and I didn't do that. So yeah, man, that's what happens. All right. So just so you guys know what's going on there, we did send out a site-wide notice, but in case you didn't see the notice or whatever, no, you should have. But if you didn't, that's what's going on there. So you're not going to lose your courses. They're going to come back. But we're just in the process of restoring them from backups now. All right. So that's why it's a little janky over there, man. But that's how it is sometimes. You want to do your own thing, man. Sometimes you pay for the convenience of someone else's platform. Like when we were on Udemy, I didn't have to worry about none of this. But I didn't. Udemy was trying to strong arm me. I didn't like it. There was some of their practices I didn't appreciate. So, but the our new spiritual training courses are fine. So if you're in that, you probably didn't notice any difference. But like the oils, alchemy, meditation, dreams, sex magic, all that stuff, those courses are the ones that were affected by anything that was not created by me was affected. All right. So like I said, we're working on it now, but I wanted to mention that just so you would know, what happened. So yeah, man, but like I said, I was thinking about this herb. Sometimes we call it black cherry. But in the Anu spiritual training, there's an exercise that I give, and in that I call it belladonna, which is another name for it. It has a lot of different names. Sometimes it's called belladonna. Sometimes it's called black cherry. Sometimes it's called witchberry. Sometimes it's called blackberry. Depending, because you can find it in different places. So depending on, of course, where you find it, the name is going to be a little bit different. But it's a herb that I like to use, especially for like a lot of first eye work, and especially for people who are not used to working with the first eye. I use it a lot because it's so accessible. And what I mean by accessible, it immediately kind of kicks in. Sometimes certain things you may use just don't have an effect. It's almost like cayenne pepper. I don't think there's anybody who could put cayenne pepper in their mouth and not feel an effect, or salt for that matter, or honey or sugar, and say, "No, I can't taste the honey in the honey." Like you're gonna have an immediate effect. And so I enjoy myself personally sometimes, depending on who I'm working with, I enjoy working with stronger herbs and things that will cause things to go a little faster sometimes. And I tell you, sometimes I like to give you all the background to give you an idea how sometimes your story may look, in terms of your story of growth. I learned, or let me see, not learned, but that was impressed upon me by a woman, elder, who I know who does hoodoo, staunch Christian. So let me get this straight, staunch Christian. All right. But she is a root worker, and she makes no qualms about that. But she will tell you in a heartbeat that she's all for Christ. So I just let it ride. She's in, let me see. Wow. I need to give her a call, man. She's like in her early 90s now. Late. Yeah. I think she cracked 91 already. But real cool elder, just real dangerous type of elder. One of them elders where no matter what you bring to her, man, she's just so cool. And there's a power that comes from that, when you can kind of keep yourself even headed and keep yourself cool, because when you start to become too hot, you start to Blog Talk is at it again. All right, so we'll wait it out. We'll see if it fixes. If not, you know what I'm gonna do. I'll restart it. But this elder, like I said, man, she's a Christian, and she's not really a Christian, because she's not a Christian by how she thinks a Christian is, because you can't do that and be soothsaying at the same time. Your book speaks against that. So you got to pick one. And she's picked one. She's picked the middle. Left, right, I'm gonna go up the middle. Yeah, thanks for the Blog Talk heads up. Let me know in like a couple of minutes it's still break, or let's say a minute. We'll just say a minute, 60 seconds. If it's still breaking up, then I'll call back. I don't want to call Skype though, because then but I'll call back if it's still acting up. But like I said, I'm just using the cayenne pepper as an example. Sometimes there's certain herbs that you may utilize that will give you that immediate effect, more so than others. Some are a little bit more laid back, and it's a slow high, in a sense like that. But belladonna is one of those that you can utilize for a lot of different things, man. It's not, it works if you have IBS. I had one of my clients years ago. He had IBS. Good brother, my Haitian brother, and we started to use that herb, and I helped him out with that. And let me say this to you, man. For those of you listening who are very interested or fascinated by herbology, go beyond the spiritual in a sense. A lot of times we learn about certain herbs because we want to learn about what they can do for us. and we keep it there. You can use this herb for this. The herb is sacred to that, sacred to that. But when you're learning about how to do, how to make your own incense, or how to make your own oils, or make your own tinctures, or even omiero, water, arrow, herb, omiero. When you're making your own herb water, also include and infuse in your spiritual elixirs, things that are also good for your physical health. Okay, that's a part of your spiritual health as well, and being a well-rounded Ugan, or a well-rounded Mambo, or a well-rounded Awo, priest or priestess. You're not always, somebody comes to you with a stomach ache, you're not just going to pray for their stomach. I mean, you also want to learn the herbs that may be good for ulcers, or again, if somebody, like I said, the brother came to me, he had IBS, and he didn't even come to me on some, I want a ritual. He was like, I know you know a lot about health and stuff like that. What do you think? I was like, oh, I got something for that, man. I got you. And we cleared it up, So now, of course, I learned about those things because of my interest in them, and in my veneration of those herbs. And anybody who's on Blog Talk, let me know if it cleared up yet. If not, I'm gonna hang up and call up on Blog Talk, because I know it was breaking up a couple minutes ago. But of course, like I said, through learning the spiritual aspects there, I learned to venerate those herbs and venerate those substances in a way that I never did before. I learned to appreciate them, which I was speaking about the other day, in a way that I never really did before. And thumbs down, Blog Talk is still breaking up. Son of a. All right, so let's see here. All right, Blog Talk people, hold tight. I'm going to hang up on Blog Talk, and I'm going to call right back. I'm going to do like I did last time. All right. It's going to take me a couple of seconds. All right. Stinking behind Blog Talk, man. Always something over here. Actually, let me not say that. Because sometimes Blog Talk does really well. So let me not be unappreciative. All right. Give me 1 second, everyone. I'm just going to fix Blog Talk. I'll be right back.
Your show now, press 1.
Since it appears you're calling back into a live show, we are reconnecting you now.
All right, so I'm back, and willfully, Blog Talk is not doing me dirty like it was before. All right, so it's okay. I put a link in the chat room. YouTube is now breaking up. Oh, sweet baby Jesus. All right, let me see here. 1 second. Baby Jesus and teenage Jesus and most over the hill 30-year-old Jesus. All right. So yeah, hopefully that's better. Anyway, so hopefully Blog Talk is killer. YouTube hopefully comes back right. So yeah, man. So just the idea of the herbology, kind of getting into that. Oh, and the brother asked, I saw it was in there somewhere. I don't know where it's at, but somebody asked, where can they find the songs? I think it was Brother Antonio. Yeah, I see. Where can I find this song, Chief? You know what? I'm gonna give you one better, because I have a good sister of mine who actually does Orisha music, man. You know, and we had her on the show a long, maybe about 2-3 years ago, something like that. But she wrote a book, she has an ebook version, but called Spirit of the Orisha, and it has an accompanying CD with it as well. All right. So yeah, show the sister some love, man. Her name is Sula, Sula, and Sula Evans is her name. She's real cool, man. You know, and she's always shown me and my family a lot of love. You know, a lot of love and a lot of support. She's down for the cause. You know, she's a cool sister. She's actually initiated in the Akan system. You know, but you know, and where I have a home on the continent, her quote unquote godmother, her home is like right down the street from where I'm at. So, you know, small world when everybody converges back on the continent, right? You know? But yeah, so support her. She has an Orisha CD that she had put out some time ago, and I know when she first put it out, she didn't have the ebook. So I'm only gonna make an assumption, probably maybe, that the music she probably has digitally too. Maybe it's on iTunes or something. But I know you definitely can grab her stuff off of Amazon. All right. So yeah, man. You know, keep it in house. You know, keep it in house. So I'm gonna big her up for that. You know, but like I said, I know there's a book and a CD together, and on the CD is a lot of songs that she threw up there. She sings. It's her singing, by the way, I guess I should say. And if any of you ever look at the footage, I think a while, maybe like 2-3 years ago, we did like it's like a highlight of when I was going around doing a lot of different workshops. And there's a scene with me playing the drums, and there's a woman singing. Well, really the whole music to the whole highlight reel, that's her singing, and I'm playing the drums. And we're sitting on a park bench in Congo Square in New Orleans, and she's singing while I'm playing. So, you know, that's her, right? But she has a CD, which I'm sure by now she probably has it digital. You could get it. So yeah, man, you know, show that sister some love, man. She's good people, you know, real sweet spirit, Oshun sister, you know, and she's got all of that Oshun hope in her eyes. Whenever you talk to her, she's super, super loving. If I call her right now, because you're not going to call out on Blog Talk. It's funny if you hear how long the intro, like she has this long string of niceties that she has to go through whenever you call her. You know, she'd be like, "Oh, my darling Chief. Oh, my darling, I love you so much. Oh, I'm so glad you called me. Oh, my brother, I was just thinking about you the other day. And oh, I saw this brother who looked just like you. And then I started talking to him, and I was telling my good friend about you. And oh, I love him so much, and I love you so much. And oh, you two brothers need to meet each other." You know, it's a whole long thing of love you got to go through, man. Every time you talk to her, I just be sitting there waiting through it. You know, but yeah, she got that Oshun hope, Shamika. Yeah, it's hope. You know, it's that optimism, you know, for a better day. Something's gonna be better tomorrow. You know, because I'm gonna make it better, because I'm gonna make it pretty. So even if it's ugly tomorrow, I'm gonna make what's ugly pretty. You know, they got that type of energy that they come into the room with, man. It's good, it's nice, you know, it's healthy. All right. 931, you're on the air.
Hey, greetings, Chief. This is Lo the Scholar, bro.
Peace. Hey, peace, Lo. About time. Yeah, man. Let's talk about some gremlins and some goblins and, Yeah, bruh. Load of scholars in his
The
house.
woozles.
Yeah, the wolves. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? This brother always is right there with me, man. Whenever I start getting into my other zone with my other literature and stuff, he's right there, man. So yeah, man. How you doing this evening, brother?
I'm all right. Thank
Good.
you.
Good, good. For sure, man. What's on your mind?
Oh, none. I'm just enjoying the show and everything.
Uh,
I didn't mean to, call in and whatnot, but I got to be in a space where no noise, show respect and whatnot. And sometimes it's hard to do when you're hopping on one leg and whatnot.
yeah, for sure, man. I know
So
how it
yeah,
is. I know how it is. But I always appreciate brothers like yourself, man, because you have it seems to be an eclectic range of things. Because and just for anyone listening, this brother, this is the first time we've ever spoken voice to voice, but he always leaves such responsible comments on the videos that I always remember him. Whenever there's a video, he always has a nice way that he'll expand whatever I was talking about, or he'll provide, like almost some contextual bibliography. I'll say something. He's like, "Oh, I noticed you brought up this, Chief. Yeah, I like that book. This book I like too." Do. And I
yeah,
appreciate that. Yeah, man, I appreciate that because I tell you, a lot of times, sometimes we get stuck in one kind of information, man, and it's hard for us to imagine that, there's such a wide range of information that we can take in, that we can apply to this journey, man. So, I'm always appreciative of
yes,
those
sir.
comments, blood.
Yes, sir. I agree with you on that because when you gave them, them Doom references
Hmm.
and you was quoting, a Ghibli film, I was like, she know about Ghibli? I was like, how you know that?
Yeah, man.
Because you so cool, And one thing I can say about you is that, I respect your manness and how how you are, and you are unapologetic about it. So
Yeah.
it's like you just come out with these references, and I reference back to things that that just instantly come to me in my head, right?
Hmm.
Like, oh, he's talking about the Bene Gesserit and
Right.
whatnot. I love that book. Or
Right.
he's talking about the warrior and the magician. I'm like, well, if you reference, if you ever played World of Warcraft, I
Hmm.
can go here with it and say, oh, so that's what that means. Okay, I get it.
Right.
I just be going, going in the back of my head and whatnot, and just like, okay, I get what he's saying. Something
Hmm.
that I can reference and then say, okay, I get it. I get what he's saying now. So that's how I just break it down for myself.
Nah, man, I appreciate it, man. It's good stuff, and and another little hit on that for you sisters. I'm glad you brought that up, Lo. Um, a lot of times, like again, and I need to, brother Victor. I'm gonna get back to you. I know you're probably listening to the show or will listen to this. I know you sent me a message a while ago about this, and I haven't gotten back to you. I've been so busy. But brother asked me if I could do a show on the Iyami. And a lot of I have not done that show. I can, but I haven't because I'm not. It's not right. No, it's not right for me to do that. I have a lot of respect for the Yami, and they look out for me hard body. So I'm not gonna mess up my relationship by overstepping my place. You could be as deep as you want to be, man, but it doesn't mean just because you smart or you strong that you can violate rules. There's still rules to the universe, you know. So I haven't done that show, but
Mm-hmm.
what brother Lo just so a lot of times when you sisters ask me about the Iyami or the AJ, I'll give you other references. I'll say, well, go check this out, go check that out, go check that out. So that's one that he just brought up. I'm glad you said that. The Bene Gesserit. There's a book series by Frank Herbert, and actually, once Frank Herbert died, his son and his son's part. What was his name? Paul,
It's
right? Paul Herbert, I think his name
Brian.
was.
No, it's Brian Herbert. It's
Brian
Brian
Herbert.
Herbert, and he co-authored it. I can't remember the other guy's name that he co-authored, but
Yeah, with his
they
partner.
continued the series, but they did like okay, Frank Herbert did, the Dune series. They're doing like the book series before Dune happened.
Right,
like
the
they're
houses.
doing the Borderlands Jihad, and
Right.
the start of when the Bene Gesserit actually formed, and, and the Spacing Guild and all of that.
Yep.
I really ain't really got into his book because it was like, the Dune series is like canon for me, and I don't want to, mess that up going, with his son stuff, because, I don't want, it's just so good. The Bene Gesserit is just so, you get to see women in power, and you see how they do things from a bloodline aspect.
Right.
Where you got the Spacing Guild, they're all pure mathematics.
Right.
But the women, the Bene Gesserit, they break things down from a, not only from a psychic aspect, but also through bloodlines, because that's how they control everything. They control everything through bloodlines.
Right.
Yeah,
they're genetic scientists ultimately.
And they're exactly.
Yeah, he's right, man. What he just said. Now, I've read pretty much all the books. I may be like 3 or 4 short, and I know a couple of them I skimmed a little bit. Like, what was the one? Well, no, Heretics of Dune. I think I skimmed on a little bit because it just got a little.
Oh man.
A little. But I'm gonna go back on it. Got a little wordy for a little bit, but I'm gonna go back on it. But the Bene Gesserit. So we talking about the Yami. We're talking about the witches and feminine power. Man, the Bene Gesserit. Right? Go and check out. Even if you check out the first Dune. If you want to check out, but the way like Brother Lois is, the first Dune, that's when they introduce Reverend Mother Gaius Mohiam.
Gaius Mohiam.
Yeah, you know it. And she's like basically she's the Emperor's witch. She's the Emperor's soothsayer, basically. And yeah, but and then you have a bunch of different Bene Gesserit, and the Bene Gesserit are basically an order. They're a feminine order. They're a womanly order, but it's not. It's like anything you could imagine about witchcraft on steroids, and the way they write it, because you got to understand, like with Frank Herbert, he based a lot of his writings around Islam. Okay, so there's a lot of the stuff that he's writing. Even it's like Islam in outer space, basically. So. A lot of the stuff he's writing
that's what the Fremen are about.
Yeah, like the Fremen. Yeah, the Fremen. Yeah, because they're basically Muslim because and then they're chanting for their Messiah, the Musa, and the Muad'Dib. The
Lizang al-Ghaib and Muad'Dib, the Mahdi.
Right, the Mahdi. So this is all Islamic stuff. But I'm telling you, it's really good. So a lot of you sisters who have asked me, like. Oh man, like can I get more Orisha information? I mean, I'm sorry, not Orisha, Aj information. I'm telling you, check out the Bene Gesserit. Check out that book. I wouldn't even fast forward to the Bene Gesserit. Read the book, and because what will happen is you'll start to see how much the women are really actually orchestrating political, worldly, and spiritual events. Even though. They play the background. I mean, background. They even have a whole planet for themselves, where they train women, and it's real deep. Even the way the women are, it's like they have a certain balance over their emotions. They're very cold, So like when young girls are born, they're like I'm telling you, they're cold, man. When the young girls are born, they don't even get to know who their mothers are. They're raised with. Fathers. Yeah, or their fathers, right? But it's still all genetic modification. And then sometimes what they'll do is they'll marry off one of the witches to different political figures throughout the galaxy, and this is how they maintain control in a sense, But if you really get to the point where you understand the sciences, they're also martial artists. And like remember who was it? Vladimir Harkonnen. Remember the whole way he got poisoned by the witch. Mm-hmm. He had
the high enemy or the Gonjaba.
Right, the Gonjaba. So basically, there was a woman who released poison out of, like, these witches know how to hold certain chemicals inside of their bodies, right? They have such a mastery over their bodies that they can have sex with a man and release certain chemicals, whatever chemical they want at a certain time. And she basically
And turn them
poisoned.
into their slaves.
Right, exactly. She can enslave them. I'm telling you, it's deep. And the whole series really centers around this substance called melange spice, or spice melange. Which melange, as soon as you hear melange, you know that's melanin. And it basically is melanin. When you read about what the spice does, the spice is created through spice worms, and the spice worms are basically kundalini energy. They're snakes, but they call them worms, and they create this substance called spice. And the spice is really melanin, and it increases, your psychic abilities. It increases your physical ability, all these different things. It even changes the color of your eyes and all kind of stuff, But yeah, man, if you sisters want to learn about how witches move, and the ideas of the Iyami, the ideas of the Aj, you check out the Bene Gesserit orders that are outlined in that book, because he did an excellent job. Because if you read the books, you'll see that he basically took ideas from a lot of different religions, similar to Star Wars, but this is way better than Star Wars. This is way better than Star Wars, but
way better.
Yeah, it's like it.
But but with the Bene Gesserit, especially in the later book,
right,
you get to see the Bene Gesserit as they, especially in like Heretics and Chapter House, you get to see the Bene Gesserit, that didn't leave the scattering, that didn't go all over the world. Then you get to see the new Bene Gesserit of those, those missionaries that left, from different galaxies, and these women come back, and then you see the war between two different sects of Bene Gesserits. The Bene Gesserits just looking like them hoes. That's how they really talk. They be like, them hoes over there. You be like, yeah. And it's just fun how you see two women orders that were the same at one time, but then they branched off. After like 1,000 years, and then you see how one is, and you see how another one is, and then you see how they come together.
Yeah, I read some of that. See, you're inspiring me actually to go back on some of that work, but what he's talking about, he's giving it to you, man. I'm telling you, Michelle just said, I just ordered that book and can't wait for it. I started the Dune series but never finished it because of school. I'm totally geeking out. I love Frank Herbert's books. Yeah, I mean, it opens your mind. I can't say that, because there's a lot of works that I read and I'll get little gems from, and I'll say, oh man, I'm going to teach about this. I can't necessarily say that there was anything in Frank Herbert's books that I ever read and was like, aha, a lesson. But what I can say is that reading his work opened up my mind so much, and really, because he creates it was other worlds we talking about, but you start to see how some of the theories that we talk about, if really pushed to their thresholds, how they really look acted out. So like when you talk about, like again, we talk about the Bene Gesserit. You talk about, a lot of sisters walking around, I'm a priestess, I'm a witch, I'm this, that. And it's cute. Yeah, put your little, clothes on and wrap your hair up and, load up on the patchouli. Yeah, it's cool. You smell like, okay, cool. But when you read how it really looks, and not just looks in terms of admiring the witchcraft aspect or whatever, or the femininity, but when you really see how powerful it is, because you're talking about women who have learned, they have even their own language, like you see in the film version, I know you remember those scenes where they're talking one thing out of the mouth.
The film version where they do hand signals.
They do hand signals,
but they're talking regularly, but they're doing hand signals.
That's when I fell in love with it. That's the real talk. So they'll be sitting there in front of each other, and there was a scene where one, I think, was that Jessica who was, no, it wasn't Jessica who was locked up.
No, it was
Irulan?
It was Reverend Mother Helen, and it was Princess Irulan.
Erelon,
because
right,
Helen Moyen was in the prison, and she was talking to Irulan, and
right,
about getting rid of the twins.
right, killing
And
the
that
twins
and
off.
you even talked about them because you referenced them to the Ibeje.
Right.
You know,
Because the twins were the saviors. Basically, they were the Christ figure,
yeah.
Leto, and his sister. So, but
Mhm.
they're talking out of their mouth one way, like, "Hey, so how was your such and such, and did you take care of that?" But then they're using another language that they're using so quickly with their hands. It's a totally different conversation. That's when I fell in love. And I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is like when you come in the house and your girl's talking in pig Latin." you know,
Mhm.
it's a totally
Or
different.
if you ever seen if you ever seen like game bangers stacking,
Mm-hmm.
or nowadays these dancers, they do what they call
Right.
treading, which really just looks like stacking. That's basically what it
It's the
is.
same thing. Right.
You say what thing and you just
Right.
talking with your fingers.
And you giving a whole nother signal. I know exactly. And it looks the same as like what they were doing in the movie, the hands to everything. So yeah, man, I would advise a lot of you sisters who, if you really want to get some witch inspiration, if you really want to see like, well, let's see, if we had a society of women, if we decided like, you know what, we're going to stand up and really do something for ourselves in a sense, what would it look like? The Benny Gesserit will give you all of the inspiration that you want. And honestly, you're not going to find it too many places. Honestly, like, because I've studied the Iyami extensively. I've studied the Wajet extensively. And anytime I see anything with the name witch on it, I run to it. And I don't, like I said, I don't teach those shows because it's just not, I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't feel uncomfortable enough, or my level of discomfort is too high to sit up here and tell a bunch of women about their feminine power. Now, if it's my mate, yeah, like we home, I'm gonna tell you, listen, this is how you work that coochie. This is what you do, and da, 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 da. Yeah, we gonna have those feminine conversations, but outside of that, nah, it's not really my place to do that. But I will guide you, sisters, on where you could go, and that's a perfect place to look. And the books are a little thick, so you may look at it and feel a little intimidated, and you may not be that interested in the sci-fi aspect, but just to learn about politics, even, there's a lot in there,
Mhm.
as in those books, and even the way you
Yeah.
find all the Orisha in there, the way that the house is, like you have the house of Atreides, house of Carino, house of Arkanen,
Kanye.
yeah, and each
Yeah.
one is basically like you got one planet that's all water, you got one planet that's like all industry, another one is like in the clouds, so it's like you see the elements are present, and the people who come from those planets have the personality and the spiritual inflections of the actual planets that they come from. So you start to get a little sense of that. And like Brother Lowe was saying, even when you're dealing with the Spacing Guild, they use spice to terraform themselves to go beyond humanity, and they learn how to fold space and time by using these really complex
Without moving.
mathematical. What were you saying?
I said without moving.
Right, without moving, exactly, without even moving. So it starts to give you a sense of the idea of learning to cultivate and to utilize melanin, some of the things that even ancient scripture speaks about. Because like I said, his whole books are built around, it's Sufism, it's Islamic Sufism, and you have some different elements thrown in there, but it's real stuff. He just had a real cool, whereas like with Star Wars is good, but there's a lot of elements thrown in there to the point that he almost makes, and Star Wars is mainly biblical. It's a biblical story. So it doesn't go but so far. It's still good beats out evil at the end, but with like Dune, you really don't know what's good or bad.
Who's good, who's bad.
Yeah. It's just like you really get into that science of isness, and it's just like it's more about evolution, what things evolve, and pushing to evolution even beyond human form if need be. Just it gets real interesting, man. So, for a lot of, like I said, a lot of you sisters who are very interested in information in strong mind, body, fitness. The name of the book series is Dune, D-U-N-E. I saw you asked in the chat room, what's the name of these books? And there's a lot of them. But just start with the very first one. And the very first one, the name of it is Dune. You know,
you can even watch the movies.
Right. Yeah. Matter of fact, yeah.
1984.
Mm-hmm. And then there was a recent one.
I can't tell you because I wasn't born, but you know, when I was like, I have a good memory. So when I was a baby, I remember watching that first Dune by Dino De Laurentiis, and it stuck with me throughout my journey. You know?
Well, I remember when Dune came out in the theaters. Yeah, it was 84. And the second one came out, I think it was like 99, 2000, somewhere around that. And that one came like on the Sci-Fi Channel. And they were slightly different, but they were good. They were both good, just different. The first one, obviously, you know, to me that was the one. That one had Sting in it from the Police, and you know, but you know, it was good, man. You could watch, if you watch both of them, you'll get a lot. The second one that came out later on the Sci-Fi Channel, that one had a part 1 and 2, right? Because it was Dune and the Children of Dune. You know, combined together, so you can actually watch all 3 of them, and you'll get a lot of, you get a lot, even just on the Bene Gesserit. If you want to get into some witch Iyami stuff, if any of you sisters feel like you want to get real, if you want to get tough, you know, if you want to get a little spiritually brolic, you know, you want to get your tough witch on. That's what you tap into. If you really want to see some dangerous,
want to learn that weird way.
The weird and way, exactly. How they were using sound vibrations to, you know what I mean? Like, man, listen. See, that's where it's at. That's some real stuff right there. That's where it's at, man. Yeah, man. So yeah, give thanks, man, for mentioning that whole Bene Gesserit's piece, man. Yeah, that stuff was good. A lot of those films, man. And that's why I said I appreciated the brother, because a lot of times I know some of the references I use, it's not really maybe material that you guys are as interested in or maybe even dug into. Because a lot of people, they're calling for recent information, which is cool, you know, or just give me some African rituals, you know. But this thing is infinite. You know, it's like a complex combination of digits. It's infinite. It just keeps going on and on and on and on and on and on. So you're going to find the ideologies and these thought patterns pop up in so many different things. And some people have been able to, in very genius intellectual ways, been able to convey, they've been inspired by these spirits. So they've been able to convey some of these deep, high ideas through film and whatnot. And what I always appreciate is when I watch a old film like Dune. Yeah, it came out 84, right? The first one, but the book was written in 65. You know, so I think it's always good to understand that this isn't new. And sometimes we get caught up in that, you know, when we start studying, you know, we start looking at our parents a certain way, like, well, they weren't exposed to any consciousness. And we don't realize, like, no, like I told you, the first really strong metaphysical movement in America was in the 1920s. You know, around 1914, 1920s, you had a strong, even Black Hebrew Israelite movement as well in the 30s, you know. So a lot of the things that we're engaged in now, we didn't come up with this stuff. We're not the first person to look at pictures of Kemet and say, oh, it's called Kemet, it's not Egypt. And, you know, people have been calling themselves Ethiopians for a long time, man. You know, there's another series, and I know you probably know about it, Lo. I got to get back on it. I fell off on it. But Boardwalk Empire. You probably watched it.
Oh, man.
Yeah. That brother. What's the name of that brother, man? He's real interesting, man. He played in Shaft, but he always calls the people, what does he call them? Ethiopians? You
mean I know what you're talking about. I don't know. I can't remember his name, but I know he played in Shaft. He plays in Westworld.
Westworld, okay. Yeah, I know he did. Yeah,
he was in Westworld.
He's a good actor. You know, he's anything. He's always solid. You know, whatever he plays in, and the brother's got a lot of range. You know, but he plays in Boardwalk Empire. He's a brother who came, I think, season 2 he came in. And yeah, I think it was season 2, right?
I want to say 3.
You want to say? Yeah, I think you might be right. Yeah, no, it might be 3 because I know it was late because he came in around when I fell off, and he was just a very, very interesting character, man. He's got a whole. They
called him the Doctor.
Yeah, the Doctor. And he's got this whole different theory on black-white relations. But this is at a time, because this is Boardwalk Empire circles around the life of Nucky. What was Nucky's last name? Was it Johnson?
Nucky Thompson.
Nucky Thompson, right? Who was a real life figure, and he's played by Steve Buscemi. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Buscemi. Yeah. Weird looking dude, but he always gets good roles. But it was it's a real life adaptation, of a person who actually really lived, and even a dude with half a face blown off, he's a real person, and but you start to see that even a time period, because the series is like it's centered around the 30s during the Prohibition era, and you start to see that there's even elements of consciousness back then. When you listen to some of the black characters and the things that they're saying amongst each other, it's very interesting. So this consciousness ain't new, man.
Yeah, I would say because his character is actually a Garveyite. And
right, he's Garveyite. Like, exactly.
He's visited by the FBI, and and it's basically in certain parts they talk. They're saying how this is basically when like Garvey leaves America, during the 1930s. It's basically that's what in some episodes that's what they're talking about when he's visited by the FBI.
Right.
We know you're a Garveyite, but we got rid of him.
Right.
And and yet I would agree with Chief because I remember my teacher made me which is basically my L because he just shells me along. He made all of us read Wonderful Ethiopians of the Ancient Kushite Empire by Drusilla Hurston, and that book was authored in like 1930 something. It's a very old book, very old.
Mm-hmm.
But by Drusilla, yeah, it's a very old book.
Yeah.
But he used to always read that.
Yeah. I mean, I know that book. I have that. That's the one with the yellow cover. It's looks like it was handwritten almost. Got a yellow color with black writing, and and it speaks about that aspect of us being you're referred to as an Ethiopian, and so forth, so on. And it's a real old book, So it just gives you that idea that or just the proof that the conscious thought has been around for a minute. So to be moving in circles, and that's kind of like in Boardwalk Empire, Dr. Narcissus, because that's his full name, I think, Narcisse or something like that, which obviously is a take on, right? Yeah, a take on Narcissus. But Dr. Narcisse, his character, you start to get the sense that he does a little bit more talking, because he's also corrupt at the same time. There's a corruptive aspect about him, but he and the way they made him up, the whole doctor thing is because I think he's really supposed to be Dr. Du Bois, because he looks like W.E. Du Bois, like the way he wears, because W.E. Du Bois had a very distinctive mustache and beard, and he wears
that very distinctive look like I gotta say this, look like a character off of Three Musketeers.
Exactly. With a curly mustache and you're absolutely right.
And goatee.
You're absolutely right. It does look like that. Yeah, he does. And they made him up to look similar. Now I don't chop anything up as just accidental. So I'm sure there was some purpose in that. But so he's supporting the whole Garveyite movement, but I mean he's more like Nino Brown from New Jack City at the end of the day. Him and Chalky, he's rough, man. He's a real serious type of dude the way he gets down.
He gives lectures in the morning, and he he pushing that weight.
Right, exactly.
He pushing that weight through Harlem.
Exactly. You know, so a real interesting character. But again, the film, I mean, or the series is set in the 30s. You know, are y'all asking me for the name of the book again? Come on, Achilles. Come on, brother. You putting that in the chat room? Come on, man. You can't scroll up. Scroll up, brother. Man, y'all be killing me with that.
But you also get to see sorry, Chief.
It's all right. Mm-hmm. Oh, and thank you, Sister Madeline. Madeline told us that the name of the brother is Jeffrey Wright, and I think that sounds like I think that's right. Right?
Yeah.
That sounds about right. Jeffrey Wright.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Madeline.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. What were you saying, brother?
I was about to say you also get to see, especially in Boardwalk Empire, you know, you also get to see the formation of the commission, and you also get to see how, basically how, if you know anything about that time, you also get to see how, basically, blacks that were also in the underworld, how they get basically outed out, you know, of the criminal underworld by the Italians and by the Irish, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, that's a good point. That's a good point. You're right. Because that was, man, I don't even know if I should mention this. Well, I'll reference the book because I got too much inside information on this one. But there's a book called Black Brothers Incorporated. I don't know if anyone's ever checked that one out, but it's a real good book. It deals with a lot of the just a lot of the underworld, we'll say. We want to use that terminology, but underworld activity in the Philly and Detroit area, I should say. Oh, okay, Achilles, you wasn't talking about the book. Well, you did say book though, brother. We're not talking about a book right now. We're talking about a series on, is the HBO, I think?
Yeah.
On HBO? Okay. I download everything from the internet, man, so I never know what channel anything's on. But it's called Boardwalk Empire. That's the name of it, brother. Achilles. Boardwalk Empire. And it's since gone off. I think it went off like in I'm breaking up. Here we go with the monarchy. All right, let me fix this real quick. All right. Let me do my little magic. Hopefully that should have fixed it on YouTube. Just let me know if it did or didn't. But yeah, brother, we were speaking about Boardwalk Empire is the name of the TV series. It centers around a guy by the name of Nucky Thompson. And I mean, I like anything that's gangster. So I don't know if you like it, but yeah, if I just I like shoot 'em ups and gangster flicks because I like anything that's dealing with outlaws. Just doing things your own way. So if you like that type of film, you'll love the series. It's a well-written series, and it does, like Brother Lowe just said, it does kind of put you on to some of the Irish involvement in like prohibition and many things of that nature. And then, also then you see where the Italians come into play, and you can never forget the Jews. Some of the biggest.
No, because you got Arnold Rothstein.
Right, Rothstein is in there. Exactly.
This is after he fixed the World Series. He got his best.
Right. So you can never. And I know a lot of times they get left out of the talks, man. Another good series to check out, which again is based on real life, is Peaky Blinders. Anybody's ever checked out Peaky Blinders?
I'm about to say, how you know that?
Come on, I'm on it, man. I'm on it.
I love that show. I love that show.
That show is like a good meal for me. Peaky Blinders is my speed, man.
Yeah, I mean, what's his name? Because I love that actor. Because he plays an English actor, but he plays the Jew in Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, he was in Inception.
At, like the end of season 3.
Oh
man, it was
he's wild.
It was just real hood.
Yep, and he's the most hood person in the whole and the whole series. You know, the Jewish jeweler. He's a jeweler, and he is just so ghetto. You know, you start to understand why the first ghettos were where the Jews live. Why they call it that. He is so ghetto. You know, but he's got the tassels on and everything. But he's like, you know, he's kind of Diesel a little bit. He's got the scruffy beard. You know, and he's like, yeah, my friend, come give me a hug. You know, he's just wow. But the peak. Yeah, Arthur. Shalom, my friend. Yeah. But he's wild. He's like a psychopath. He's a psychopathic gangster. Yes. So you start to get a sense, you know, again, a lot of times when we speak about that, we leave out the Jewish contribution. You know, like you said, like people like Arnold Rothstein. You had the Purple Gang back in the days. They were up in Detroit, you know. Yeah. Bugsy Siegel, Meyer Lansky. You know, a lot of dudes, man. Lucky Luciano, even though he was part Italian, you know, he rolled with the Jews more because they kept him protected. You know, in Boardwalk Empire, they kind of paint him as a tough guy. But if you really learn about, you know, how Lucky Luciano was, man, when he got locked up, he went to jail, man. He was, you know, he was getting tossed around. You know, so when he came out of jail, he kind of went over with some of the gangsterisms to compensate for what had happened to him when he was locked up. You know, that's how he even got that messed up eye. You know, he was known to have that lazy eye, man. He beating the mess out of him. You know, but yeah, you know, a lot of these series, but again, sometimes you'll see certain things and you'll see the formation of our society, like the formation of some of the thought paths. You know, sometimes if we don't go back in history, we don't realize how old certain pathologies are, you know, to even realize and understand that, yeah, there were Jewish gangsters, or, you know, the police force in New York City was created around.
It was Irish.
It was Irish, right? It was Irish gangs, you know, that were policing, you know, in New York City originally. It was Irish gangs. And they were protecting themselves originally from the Jewish gangs, you know. So you start
how it all started,
right? This is down in what we now call like Chinatown, you know what I mean? So you start to get a sense
because Street and all that,
right? Because before that, Uptown was what did they consider Uptown? 20th Street, 14th Street, 20th Street. Now Uptown in New York is 181st Street. You know, before you start going into the Bronx.
No, I ain't from there.
Right. Well, you know, but I mean, you could just think about.
But I just read that. I was like, oh, so this way, this. Oh, okay. Now I get it.
You get the history.
I wanted to see the 5 points. I just wanted to see the 5 points.
Yeah, man, it's real stuff, man. So, you know, it opens your mind up to understanding how, like I said, sometimes we're not a people of memory, we're people of history. I mean, a people of emotion. So once you start looking at the memory and the history of our legacy and our walk, then you can look at, okay, well, if you're telling me there's been a conscious movement since the 20s, and heck, there's even a series on Showtime where you got a Garveyite, you know, in the 30s, and he's breaking things down, and now we're in 2017, darn near, you know, let's just say almost 2020, because that's the cool sounding number, you know, because it's supposed to be flying cars. I was promised flying cars by now, you know, when I was a kid.
That's what Disney had.
Right, exactly.
Old Disney, like the land of tomorrow.
Yeah, they played us out, man. I'm still seeing the regular rusted out hoop rides going up and down the street. You know what I mean? You know, but so you start to realize, though, in that sense that, well, let's look at our timeline. You know, have we scrunched the timeline down so small in a sense that we're the life that we're living now is real negligible? You know, what will be our blurb in the whole timeline of our development? Or will it just go from the 30s when we were talking to like 2050 when we finally woke up and finally did something with ourselves? You see, because we ain't do nothing in between the Garveyite movement, you know, because we could cite the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, but the Nation of Islam, I mean, in all honesty, it was a movement patterned after, you know, the UNIA. I mean, it's no secret. Even the uniform for the Fruits of Islam looked just like the uniforms from the UNIA. You know what I mean? So he was basically just taking that philosophy, pushing it forward. But you know, you look at those plateaus or those milestones in terms of our timeline. What will this generation be? What has this generation produced in terms of moving forward? That's why it's good. Like some of y'all listening may be like, oh man, we don't hear nothing about that, man. Tell us more about that nightshade herb. Take us back to that. He started talking about belladonna. How can I use that to get this paper? You know, but you got to understand that there's a direct linkage between knowing your history and economic growth. You know, and knowing what's already been put down. So you, like I always say, you ain't reinventing the wheel all the time. You know, not looking for new gods to serve, new religions. And, you know, it's been done. We got that part already. You know? Yeah, man.
Because if you talk to the old folks, especially the old ones that, you know, were around, and like, I never knew that, you know, that the nation, you know, they had farms, they had their own supermarkets. Oh yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
taxis, bakeries.
I didn't know that. And then you look at the economic growth, because, you know, by me being from, you know, actually being from Chicago and always passing around, you know, Mos Mariam, you look around, I'm like, man, you know, they don't have that no more. You know, they got a college, but I mean,
they threw everything out, man.
Yeah. Because I remember when they had restaurants. I mean, and they magnificent architecture. I was like, wow, when they first opened this new restaurant, and I was like, man, you know, Nation actually did that. And shoot, it ain't even there no more. You know,
and that was the last leg.
Sight to behold.
Keep in mind, that was when you were seeing the restaurants. They had all of those Ben Amin and El Amin restaurant. Well, not Ben Amin, but El Amin restaurant. A lot of them started with the name El Amin, you know, or Shabazz this or whatever. We had them where I was living too. That was the last leg, you know, so you don't even have that. You know, we had restaurants down in Harlem and stuff like that. And, you know, they had like little fish and chip joints, you know, stuff like that. The brothers was putting up for the nation. All of that's gone. So, you know, like you said, yeah, there was farmland. I mean, and this was all Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad, man, putting this together. In terms of the farmland, they had a taxi service back in the days. They had bakeries. I remember the bakeries. And, you know, and there was a lot of other different businesses and stuff that he had, you know, in conjunction to having their own newspaper. You know, the Muhammad Speaks. I mean, that's back then. It was, you know, that was a big deal. You know, and a lot of that was done away with. So again, if you kind of understand the history, it helps you sometimes to even put those who you would call leaders in proper perspective, because, you know, like I always say, I'm not looking for disciples. I don't need. Well, let me phrase this the honest way. I don't look for disciples. I don't try to make disciples, but I do need disciples. Okay, because without disciples, your movement stops. You need those who take the discipline of what you're teaching and really live it and uphold it. So that way, when you're gone, they keep it going. But you don't necessarily go out to make disciples. Now, if it hits somebody in that way and they say, you know what, man, I'm feeling this so much, I want to keep it going. Just like I became a disciple of my own culture, my own people. When I learned about my people and I learned about our great works, I was like, well, you know, I don't want to slip into oblivion, man. Like if you telling me that we was warriors and we had dough and this and that and land and all this is happening and stuff, and now we all living in the projects, then I want to be a disciple of the truths of our greatness and of our glory, so I can uphold that. But
90 seconds.
90 seconds, y'all. We're getting ready to go in the archives. But there was no one. Well, there was no one in terms of the history that was like, you need to be a disciple of the history. I made that personal decision. So you need disciples in that sense, but it gives you a sense sometimes when you start to study or learn the history. Like even I was sharing with some brothers, I'm not going to get into it too much out of respect, but the whole
60 seconds,
the whole take your hand out of my pocket statement that was used, you know, before the Honorable El Hajj Malik El Shabazz was assassinated, right? And that's often been an enigma. You know, what was that just a statement said for distraction? What were they talking about? That statement that brother said in the audience had a very clear meaning to it. Very, very clear meaning. Take you when he shouted out in that audience, take your hand out of my pocket. Now, the reason I know that is two reasons. One, because like I always tell you, I talk to elders. So I know people who were there, you know, and who had some of that inside information on 10 seconds. Had some of that inside information on some of the things that the nation was dealing with at that time as an organization. And many, many years ago, I could just share this, it's no big deal. But one of my old martial art instructors was a brother by the name of Norman Butler X, and a real high ranking brother in the nation. And some of you, that name may not mean anything to you at all, but some of you who may be a little older, who know the science, will know who Norman Butler, actually his name was Norman, his full name was Norman Butler 3X. Well, when he came, you know, he was locked up for a while, came out of jail, he was actually given a mosque, and he was given a very warm welcome. You know, back home, he was given a very warm, basically, we could say like a hero's welcome, you know, if you will. He was given a hero's welcome, you know, back home, which for me was very, very interesting. He was given a mosque in Harlem back in the days. Like, this must have been like, when was our training, man? It was before the 2000s, maybe like 97, 99, like between 97 and 99, somewhere around there. You know, Norman, he was Butler 3X was given his mosque, and when he was given the mosque, he was celebrated as a hero. And it was said, I'm not going to say who said it, but a person said specifically, "This is how we welcome a prisoner. I'm sorry, this is how we welcome our heroes back. You know, our heroes home. You know, so." If anybody knows who that is, Norman Butler 3X was one of the brothers who was accused of assassinating Malcolm X. He was in the ballroom that night, or that day, I should say, in the Audubon ballroom, you know, and he was locked up for 20 years behind that. You know, he was paroled back in the 80s, you know, when he came out. Well, he was a vicious martial artist. Like, he was insane, you know, with the arts. So, you know, I had, and I'm going to say the honor, you know, just on the fight level. Political stuff, that's something else. But, you know, of studying with his team for a little while, when I was doing security and different works with the nation. But it always struck me as very interesting that he was welcomed the way he was. I was like, a hero? What are y'all saying? You know, so, you know, you learn how to ask questions of the elders and get the information that you need. And then you start to find out, like, oh, there's more to this than Spike Lee told us. There's more than what was in the movie, you know? So, again, it's real important a lot of times, man, to study that history and find out where we've been already, you know, to get a contextual reference of where maybe we could be now, where we have the possibility to be now. And sometimes we may celebrate things as being new that we've already done, you know, like a black president, you know, things that we've already accomplished already. And we don't realize sometimes we're just running in circles. And of course, an oppressive system is not going to remind. They're not going to say, no, y'all did this already. This ain't no big deal. You can do more. You're not going to get that hookup in that sense, you know. So, like I said, for me, it's a beautiful thing to study some of the spiritual systems of yesteryear, or some of the movements of yesteryear. The Gullah Islands, for instance, had a strong Hebrew Israelite movement many, many years ago. You know, the Gullah Geechees, yeah, man, them Geechee cats. You know, we always look at them in terms of the hoodoo and the fact that many of them were, you know, directly from Guinea and stuff like that, but they actually had a strong Hebrew movement. You know, so the Hebrew Israelites that you see now on YouTube, ISP UK, and all of the different branches that came off of UPK, you know, those are not. This is not new. You know, the movement has been happening for a long time now. It may have looked a little different or whatever, but you know, you get a sense now that, well, heck, then what are we supposed to do now? You know, because are we just kind of retracing our steps at this point? You know, how is this thing supposed to look now? If we've already written all the books, we've already done all the lectures, already done all the videos, you know, we've done all of the local community programs. I mean, heck, back in the days, we had the Black Guerrilla Army. We had brothers and sisters walking through the streets with shotguns. And then we had the Black Panther Party for self-defense. So we had brothers and sisters who were studying the law. So we did the law thing. We did the guerrilla thing, you know. A lot of things we've already done, and it's important to kind of take a look at it and say, okay, well, where did that go? How could it have been done a little bit different? We look at the Panthers and say, okay, well, you know, a lot of their theories were based around Mao Zedong and, you know, dealing with socialism. Perhaps maybe that philosophy can take you only but so far if you're not a part of that ethnic, you know, grouping. So maybe we need to learn some politics that work for us and the way we think in our, you know, in our psycho-spiritual physiology, you know. So, and I'm not saying that's what it is, but you might ask yourself questions like that, or you might look at Garvey and say, you know, well, let's look at that. And, you know, I had a elder who since transitioned, man, real funny kind of guy, man. He was, for all sense and purposes, he was a Tom. He was Uncle Tom. You know, but took a liking to me, as always. You know,
you breaking up on Blog Talk.
Breaking up on Blog Talk. Oh man, all right. Hopefully it'll clear up, because the only thing I could do on Blog Talk, actually, if I hang up on Blog Talk, I can't call back because we're already in archives. So I'm gonna just talk and then I'm gonna shut it down in a minute. But just to give you an idea how you make these linkages. Well, long story short, there was an elder who lived, you know, his house was close to mine, and we vibed, because Uncle Tom or not, I'm still gonna, you know, I'm gonna try to start out by giving you respect as an elder, and hopefully you can, you know, you can handle it. But you know, we were cool, and he used to have a house many, because he was pretty up there in age. Many years ago, he had a house in Jamaica for some while. He used to live in Jamaica. His family's not from Jamaica. I forget why he told me he was out there. I don't remember. But his next door neighbor, like his fence, right over the fence, his next door neighbor was Michael Manley. And if you, I don't know if you know who Michael Manley is or know anything about Jamaica, but Michael Manley at one time in Jamaica was the prime minister of Jamaica. You know, like how we would have like a president, but he was the prime minister back in the days, I think in the early 70s. And, you know, well, when he first started, you know, from the early 70s, and then he came back into power around the late 80s, early 90s, somewhere around there. And so this was my neighbor's next door neighbor. And he said they used to talk a lot. You know, my neighbor was like, even though he was a Tom, he was kind of like, I don't know, he was kind of a ghetto Tom in a way. Yeah, he was a little vulgar, like a little too direct sometimes. You know, he used to say things he shouldn't have said. You know, like sometimes, that's back when I had my locks. Sometimes when I would come out, because I always kept my hair covered, but sometimes I'd be in my yard with my hair out. And I'd come out to the front to get my mail or something, and he would see me, he would say, "Oh, it's Bob Marley." You know, he'd just be cracking on, you know, stuff. He just didn't care. He's a Tom, though. You know, no big deal. But anyway, so he had shared some information with me that Michael Manley used to tell him about Marcus Garvey, right? Now, this was information that I never, ever would have been privy to. And I've read a lot of works on Marcus Garvey, right? But the stuff he used to tell me, And he used to say it so casually because he didn't care nothing about Marcus Garvey. He could care less who it was. This was just neighbor talk, over the fence neighbor talk. It didn't mean nothing to him. You know what I mean? So he would just share things with me, and he was like, yeah, man, he couldn't stand that guy. He couldn't stand that guy. And so he would say a lot of things. So just giving I'm not going to say what he said, but just giving an example of a lot of times when you connect into that historical value that our elders have and that our elders hold, you tap into that historical value, man. You'll learn the more intricate or the more detailed aspects of some of our history that's crucial as to why maybe certain movements fell apart or how they even got started. And it will give you an idea of maybe how you should be moving and how you should be building and what you could be doing, and also how much better life can be. Some of the struggles that you're currently going through now, you realize, man, I didn't even have to go through this, man. Like, this debt has already been paid. This road has already been paved for me. Somebody already handled this. This book has already been read and deciphered, and this elder who's giving this information is delivering the finer points to me. So I don't necessarily have to go back and try to recreate the wheel again at this point. And then you might even look at certain people who come and teach or propose themselves to be teachers, and you find out, man, you're just stealing. We like to say borrowing, but you're just stealing from this elder who came maybe in the 30s or in the 20s, but because that we're not a people of history and memory in that sense, or memory of history, you can easily steal some stuff that was said 100 years ago, or said 50 years ago or 40 years ago, and repackage it and rebrand it as if it is your own, and just keep us going in circles. Kind of messed up. All right, we're going to get out of here. I think Blog Talk is probably still fuzzy. Lo, can you hear me, or are we jacked up over there? I guess we're jacked up. You can't hear me. All right.
I can hear you, but you breaking up real bad.
All right, cool. No problem. We're going to close it out then. Because like I said, if I hang up and call back, it's going to cut off. But thank you, brother, for calling in, because we can hear you clear, just so you know. So, yeah, give thanks, man. Thanks for calling in, checking in. I definitely appreciate that, you sharing your perspective, man. Thank you so much. All right.
Yes,
cool.
sir.
Yeah. All right. Word. All right. Peace, brother. Peace. All right. Cool. All right. Let me see. Let me close down Blog Talk. Yep. 11:11.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio.
11:11. You see the time? Well, it's 11:12 now. All right. So the special time just passed. It was 11:11 a minute. I saw that, Sister Michelle, when we decided to close it down. And Antonio asks, I'm going to answer this last question and we're going to get out of here. Chief, is the problem due to a lack of proper archiving, or is it because we don't pass down info generationally? Excuse me. I need some water. But the latter. And because of the latter, the former becomes true. You see, so no, we don't tend to pass down information generation to generation, and it's kind of like the thing I was sharing recently. Oftentimes we don't have that respect or that love or that loyalty for history. You can find that even in our entertainment industry. After a certain age, we just don't want to hear from certain people anymore. Sit your OASS down. And you could just be 5 minutes or 5 years beyond the threshold. So a lot of times that's what it has a lot to do with, man. Yeah, we're not passing things down in a way that is akin to how we pass things down, right? So what I mean by that is we're taught that whatever we share, whatever we learn, whatever we do, is supposed to come through literary works, right? So we should be documenting, writing things down, and then at some point handing those books to our children. And for the most part, that's not how we learn, right? We learn through music, through song, we learn through stories, having our elders as when we're very young, a lot of the stories that you learn as patakis, the stories, those are children's stories. I've told you that before. Some of these Orisha stories that you're reading and you're so fascinated about, and you 30, 40, 50 years old, those are actually for children. When you're an adult, now you're dealing with the deeper formulas. You see, so we're not sharing a lot of that stuff sometimes, man. Sometimes even my youth, man, I forced my youth to sit and watch certain movies. You know, we try to pull out phones and stuff. Nah, put your phone away. You're gonna watch Beat Street. you know, you're gonna watch Crush Groove. You're gonna watch Wild Style. You know, so sometimes it's not sharing in that sense, because if we don't have, again, those rites of passage experiences, we don't know at what point our different responsibilities kick in for us, brother. So, you know, you might be 25 years old, but what's your responsibility as a 25-year-old to a 16-year-old? You know, in that sense, if you have not gone through a proper rite of passage to understand that there's a different responsibility that's put on me, and there's different expectations based on where I'm at in age and where I'm at in terms of ability. You see, so if you don't have that sense, then you're going to think you have nothing to pass down, because you're not going to see the value in each of your transitions if you don't possess that. You see, so let's say if you went through a rites of passage at 13, right? Just for example. And then you go through another rites of passage, let's say it's 16, right? And then your next one will probably be like maybe 21, right? So if you're 21, you could actually help conduct the rites of passage for a 13-year-old. You have so much to share with them that's going to come in their life between 13 to 16 and then 16 to 21, because you now know the profundity of those ages. You know the profundity of your experiences, because there's been whole experiences, you know, ceremonial experiences that have been built around the passing of those ages for you. But if you don't have that, you could be 21 years old and still have the same interests and vices of a 13-year-old. We see that all the time, right? I've spoken about that before in shows. I see people who are 70, 35, 21, 17, and 7. I've seen this. I've seen this at events with my own eyes. Grown men, and grown males, and they all have the same exact vices that they're addicted to. So I've seen situations with males of that same age range, and they all got the same clothes on. That's why we don't pass anything down generationally, because we're not aware of where the generational lines begin and end, and what we're supposed to give, you know, at a certain point. You know, if you're 50 years old, right? And let's say, because manhood, you know, it's 13. We become adults, 13, really. So imagine from 50 and go back to 30, for instance, right? So you now have 37 years of information that you can share. That's a lot, 37 years. Imagine walking in your culture for 37 years, how much you would have to give, how much you would have that you could share with the person. So, you know, you would only be aware of that because maybe at 50 there was another rite of passage. You know, you're aware that, wow, you know, at each step I have something to give, man. But yeah, so a lot of it is like we don't pass it down, so therefore we don't properly archive. Because how many of you have great books on your shelves that you don't share with your children anyway? How many of you who have children have sat down and watched the movie Sankofa with them? Or sat down and watched Roots with them, all of Roots. You know, even the corny, well, I can't watch the Next Generation ones, so let me not try to get on y'all for that, because I ain't even watched those. That's when it got whacked. But Roots is a great series. Shaka Zulu, even as historically inaccurate as that series was, because it was very inaccurate, but still, how many of you have taken some of the things in your past that woke you up and said, all right, now I'm going to share some of the things that made me what I am, even if they may look at it and laugh at it? You know, I'll give you an example. I remember sharing a movie with Sister Kim once that I just, you know, I don't care what she said. The movie's dope, man. I ain't thinking about it. She just cracked on the movie, man. Let's just put it that way. Because it was an old movie, man. The production value was old. You know, it was like an 80s show, but it was a really good concept. And I'm actually in the process of buying the rights for that movie. And she just laughed at it the whole way through. I'm like, whatever, man. You know, I'm trying to help you out and show you, you know, bring you into another way of thinking, but whatever. So sometimes you might get some of that. Somebody will laugh and be like, why they all got afros and headbands? And you know what I mean? But the thing is, like I said, man, how many of you already have archived information that you're not sharing? How much of your story have you not shared with your youth? I'll give you an example, right? There's a new series. Well, I don't know how new it is, but there's a series out called Underground right now, right? I have not seen one episode. Not one. And I had to catch myself the other day because my youth are addicted to that. They love it. Of course they love it because look at the teachings that they came from up under. But when they were like, Baba, I'm telling you, underground is this, underground is that, I was like, man, I already seen, basically I sounded like how my parents sounded back in the days. I was like, man, I done seen every slave movie there is to be seen. I don't want to watch any more slave shows, man. Y'all watch that. That was my response. And I had to catch myself because they were so amped about it. They're watching it on their phones and in the bed at night before they go to sleep. Like they on Underground. And I said, you know what? They were like, yo, Baba, I'm telling you, there's a scene in it. And I said, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have an Underground watch party. Like we're going to download all the episodes and we're going to sit and watch them together. And they got amped about that. Now I don't want to watch that mess, man. But, man, these are things that we should share as elders in the community. These are things that we should share with our youth. These are experiences because, they're seeing images, now they've been already exposed. They've seen Roots and X and Panther and Panthers and all these different other great films and stuff. They've already seen them. But, a lot of those things I showed my youth before they were 7 years old. So, there's a gap. And maybe the production value and quality of like Underground is better than some of the stuff I showed them, maybe the way it's filmed or whatever. So, it would be irresponsible of me not to be present in that sense, as much as I don't want to relive some of that and go through it. Oh, we got to watch this again. I got to get pissed off again. And all of that like there, I gotta go and put my rational mind on again because they watching it and now they kicking into a whole nother gear. They talking about yo, that's why I understand, Baba, why you do certain things and used to say certain things. I'm like, yeah, but that was we're kind of past some of that. Don't do what I do. Don't be walking around with no shotgun under your clothes. Don't go there. But that's what I'm saying. Like, how many experiences right now are we boycotting? And I'm using the word boycott on purpose. Are we boycotting that we could be sharing with our youth right now, today? So many great works, man. So many great books. Poems. So many great poets of yesteryear who have delivered some really powerful information. And what makes it critical, like one of the things I do with my books is I do a lot of, my youth, I do a lot of expose. So before you go out there and you walk by a statue of certain people, let me tell you how they really was. Because, some of the people we look at today, I'm not going to name names, but some of the people we look at today, like maybe even the conscious circuits, who we know are clowns. We know they're just straight up clowns. 30, 40 years, there might be statues in the park of some of these people. And if you don't tell your youth today, like, yo, listen, man, before you get all hyped over that, let me tell you what that person was really like, firsthand. You kind of have to prepare them in that sense. It's funny, like, even when I hear a lot of youth get hyped over Maya Angelou, and I'm like, man, you only know the one poem, Still I Rise, or Phenomenal Woman. But there was a lot more to her story than that you might want to know about, And I'm not talking against Maya Angelou, but I'm just using her as an example because she's such a prominent figure even today for young people. They know who Maya Angelou is, So I'm just saying, to answer that question in a very long roundabout way, as I just did, look at the things that you currently have with your youth, Brother Antonio. If you have youth, but even if you don't, some youth. I know you do. Everybody knows some youth. You got nieces, nephews, cousins, or just some youth on the block. that you can say, all right, come on, y'all, like, you know, buy some potato chips or something they like to eat. You know, here's some potato chips, here's some juice, whatever, some popcorn, and bring your TV. And I'm saying all this because I actually literally did this. The first Sadulu House, I told you Sadulu House was a children's school at first. One day I'll share with you how Sadulu House really started. I told you it started around youth, but I never told you how. But I'm just going to share this little thing. The early Sadulu House classes were outside with a big screen TV linked up against my garage door. That was the Sadulu House. All right, every Sunday. That's how we did it because it was a replacement for church. That was Sadulu House. And then it grew and grew and grew. But yeah, man, you know, sometimes find youths who could use that, you know. I see your next comment. As you're speaking, it makes me wonder how birthdays are celebrated on the continent. Same way you celebrate them here. Same way you celebrate them here. Happy birthday with cakes and candles. All right. I usually spend my Earth Day, or I sometimes spend my Earth Day out of the. I don't like to experience my Earth Day on this soil, so I usually get out of the country. Sometimes I go over there, check on things or whatever. And they like to sing the Stevie Wonder version of Happy Birthday. Now, that's the most amazing thing to me. Believe it or not. First time I heard someone do that, they're like, oh, Baba, it's your birthday. And they're like, happy birthday to. I said, whoa, where you get that version? Oh, that is how you sing it. That is how it goes. Yeah, but no. That's the, you know, so that was amazing. Like, oh, you don't even sing the, I don't even know how to sing the other one. You know, you sing the black one, the one that Stevie Wonder gave us. Oh, okay, cool. You know, so yeah, man. You know, it's celebrated the same way we do it. And you say we don't really celebrate aging gracefully on this side of the globe, as far as I can tell. Yeah, for the most part. You know, but again, be careful with the we. Right? Some of us are not worried about getting old or older. You know. Some of us get older and just flyer. And then some, you know, disintegrate down into turtles. We just look like old, like turtles. Some people just look like turtles when they get old. And some people just look more regal, more distinguished. You know, I was talking to one of my uncles the other day about that. He called me up because he got locks. And he was like, yeah, nephew, starting to get a little loose on the top. You know, he's an elder, like gray haired and everything. I'm like, man, nobody looking at you like that, man. Let it rock. He was like, you know, and he called me. He's like, you know, and I ain't gonna shave my hair off either, just because it's getting loose. And I'm listening to him. I'm like, who are you telling me for? Like, I can't help you, dog. This is part of growing old, man. You know, and you know, he always been kind of like he's a tough guy. You know, he fight real well. And, you know, and he got light eyes. You know, he's always been kind of a pretty boy. He a charmer. You know, matter of fact, some of you actually met him when I did the where were we at? Not Black and Nobel. We were at Nicholas, Brooklyn, that store. And when I did a lecture there one time, he came through. Him and my other uncle, and of course, kicking it to all the sisters. They running around taking every sister in the room's jacket off. Hey, let me help you with that. Here, I got that for you. Here, let me get this chip. I'm like, come on, man, with your old school game, would y'all go sit down? You know, over there, getting everybody's coat and stuff, man, with your old selves, man. Just sit down and listen to your nephew, you know, rock. You know, but yeah, he called me. He was like, yeah, nephew, you know, I ain't cutting it off either, man, just because it's getting loose. I'm like, all right, you know what I mean? But, you know, it just makes you look more distinguished. So it's all good. You know, if you lose a little bit here, you know, he's still a pretty boy, but, you know, you just look more distinguished now because you have the wisdom. You know, a lot of the things that I share with you came from this particular, he's real brilliant, real brilliant man. You know, he gives me a lot of inspiration. So if his locks are getting a little spacing out on the top now a little bit, you know, he at least has the wisdom to coincide with the look. So to me, that's graceful. In my opinion. Somebody look at it different, but when your wisdom coincides with your maturity, I think it's a gorgeous thing. It's beautiful, in my opinion. But yeah, for the most part. Birthdays. I have to say, I've been throughout the continent far and wide, and Brother Antonio, I've never seen a quote unquote indigenous birthday celebration ever. I have to tell you that. I've always seen what we do, and that reveals something to me. That reveals that chances are, and someone can help me with that, feel free, there probably was really no birthday celebration. It probably wasn't celebrated, or at least celebrated in like how we celebrate it. Now, I told you, well, I don't know if I've ever shared that, but I only celebrate my Earth Day with the women in my family. So when my Earth Day comes around, I'll take, maybe my auntie out, or one of the women, because that's my theory has always been birthdays are really for women and not really for you, because you just slid out. You just like pushed, kicked, slid, and clawed your way, but you ain't really do that much, man. You know what I mean? Like, she was doing all the breathing and the pushing and the screaming and the scared, being afraid, and she was doing most of the work, man. So Earth Days to me really are for your mother more so than you. That's just me. To me, that is indigenous. To kind of coincide with what you were asking. Did I learn that from any particular indigenous community? Not directly. However, when you immerse yourself as a disciple of indigenous wisdom, you'll start to come up with stuff that is indigenous. It's like one of my friends from Nigeria. He said that to me not too long ago. He was like, you're more Nigerian than most Nigerian people I know. And I understood what he was saying, but he's basically saying, like, you really live it, like you really hold down the tenets, you really know the culture. So the more you immerse yourself in it, the more your mind will start to think that culture. So certain things will come automatic. You don't necessarily have to go search. You can. I'm not telling you not to research, but you don't necessarily have to go search. How do we do birthdays? How do we do births? How do we do funerals? Because you start to get the more you emulate, or the more you walk, in the movements and along the paths and beyond of your Egun, the more you start to take on their mind. So you start to take on that inventive and indigenous and ingenious mind. So certain things will just start to come to you naturally. You see, you won't really have to like, oh man, now I gotta go figure out how to do my Earth Day. No, just think about being born. What is it? Being born. Okay, physical birth. I chose my parents. Da 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 da. And then you start to think, and you might say, well, it's kind of self-centered for me to just celebrate myself on this day, when there were so many people who came together to make me. In fact, billions of people who came together so I could be here today. Literally billions. So why am I celebrating me today? Why am I expecting gifts? For what exactly? Why should I get the gifts? Shouldn't those people who came together over millions of years to finally bring me about, shouldn't they be gifted? Or at the very least, my mother. Now, I say mother and father, yeah, but I think it's just me. This is not me being a white knight or anything, because y'all know I don't have a simpish bone in my body. But I just think the day of birth, come on, man. I mean, let's just keep it real, man. That's Maxwell. It's a song, man. Woman's work. It's a woman's work, man. You know what I mean? And I don't know if any of you brothers have ever witnessed a birth. I have, man. It's hard it's hard to really truly. You may have certain sisters who you have children with, your baby mothers, and they act up afterwards, and you just like can't, and you just despise them. But one of the powers a lot of times that they'll have on you is if you saw them give birth to your child. It's hard to stay in that place of just seeing them as a despicable individual when you see all the work, And for some births are easier than others for women, but um, clearly it's still an experience, right? It's still an experience. So to me, just as an indigenous man, eventually you start to get to a point, man, where you start to, your eyes change, man, your vision change, your taste change. You don't have to tell me that cheddar cheese is not good for me. I already know that. You know what I mean? How do I know that? Well, because I have an indigenous mind and I'm looking at cow's milk and it ain't yellow. So why is the cheese yellow if the milk ain't yellow? Oh, man, you messing something up in there, man. It ain't supposed to be that color. I ain't eating that. Now that's just, I didn't have to study anything for that. So like I said, after a while, man, it becomes such a beautiful journey because you study the mythology long enough, you'll start being the mythology after a while, which will change the whole way you function and you move and your whole rhythm and your whole cadence. You'll look at your mother differently. You look at your father differently. You look at your grandparents, your great-grandparents, your uncles differently, your aunts differently. They'll take on a whole new meaning for you, your children differently. So, you don't have to even like, okay, well, how do indigenous people, when it comes time to have a sex talk with their children, how do they have the sex talk? Man, I never had the sex talk with any of my youth. I've been talking about sex with my youth before they could barely speak. We've been talking about staffs and wombs, and we don't have to have the talk. We may have at a certain point, the talk may mature as we go. At a certain point, I started talking to them about how to do it right. Because I always tell my youth, man, our name, when you think of Anu, you think of good lovers. Your sex can't be trash, man. Don't have nobody snickering behind your back. If you're going to lay that pipe, you lay that pipe right. Or if you're a woman, you're going to crack them legs open, you make sure you wig that dude out. You stand in front of him and you touch your ankles with your hands. Do stuff like that. Wig them out. That's where we come from. All right. Now I know y'all like, oh my goodness. Oh my, I clutch the pearls. He talks to his children. Yeah, I hear you. But as an indigenous man, sex is not this salacious, embarrassing, horrible thing. Nudeness and nakedness is not something that we're embarrassed about. Because of my indigenous understanding and my indigenous mind, my indigenous studies, I don't have that same level of sexual repression or sexual embarrassment in that sense. So at a young age, especially with the girls, I always used to talk about the value of your womb, the value of your womb, the value of your womb. I drilled that in. The value of your womb, you don't let any old kind of, they would say, okay, Baba, I know, don't let any vegan, if it's not a vegan staff, it can't go in the womb. Right. Don't let no stinky, parasite-ridden, pork-eating staff into your womb. Right. Right. It'd be like darn near like chants we would do. Imagine little 4 or 5-year-old girls chanting around about their womb, So, man, so that's what I'm saying. When you take on that mind, man, your whole perception about how you move and how you communicate, it begins to change. And I notice so many people that are very uncomfortable with that. But my theory was always this, just me personally, because I love hip hop. I'm a hip hop listener to this day. So my theory was always, I'm going to tell my children before they tell my children. I remember telling that to a brother when he had his first daughter. This was around his daughter was maybe 12. I want to say 12. Yeah, around that age. When that song by 50 Cent in the club came out. I remember that, and we were talking about it, and I was like, yo, because we were talking about sex. I was like, you better talk to your daughter, man. You know, she at times she was running track, but she was doing the shot put. So I'm like, yo, you got your daughter over here, she's doing a shot put. I said, you know how big her legs are gonna be from that? And how tight her behind is gonna be? I was like, yo, think about it, man. Think about how she's gonna look going into middle school. Man, I don't want to think about none of that, man. You better. And then I remember 50 Cent was out because I said, yo, listen to 50 Cent's song in the club. He's gonna tell your daughter what he wants from her, how he wants it, and what he's gonna do to her after he's done getting it. So you're gonna have 50 Cent had to talk with your daughter before you had to talk with her, and that was that was his turning point. When I said that, I guess that was just the thing that made him say. And there was that, it's that line in the song, "Come give me a hug if you're into having sex, something. I got the X, ecstasy." He's talking about. So it was something I can't remember. It's an old song, but I said, think about that line, man. Think about what he's saying. You better get to her first, because that's the music she's playing in her room when she's upstairs. When she's got her headphones on, she's falling asleep with that song blasted in her ears until it's time to get up for school tomorrow. I'm really like hyping it up, And so, yeah, man, as an indigenous person, again, like I said, man, the way you approach things becomes completely different. You approach it with a boldness and an ownership. I tell my youth all the time, I own you. I own you. You don't own yourself. I'll tell you when you're not owned anymore. For right now, you owned. All right? I know y'all don't like how that sounds, but I take that ownership before society says they own them. Well, you're a resident here. You're a citizen here. Birth certificate here. No, I own you. You ain't got no birth certificate. You got certificates of nativity. We did it a different way. You ain't got no vaccinations. I named you first and last. All right. So, you just like I said, just as an indigenous person, man, you get just a different sense of how you want to move. All right. So that has been our segment. I'll read some of these comments and I'm going to head out. Michelle said, I agree, Chief. It's a big deal to me. I spend a day recollecting what was happening that day at different times throughout the day. It's a beautiful time, traveling celebration. And Michelle says, life is the magic ritual. Yep, divine alignment. Brother Antonio said, right, the concept of the talk, quote unquote, comes from a sexually repressed culture. Lo says, like that blues song, Stand Up in It. Yeah. He says, man, I might just play that song, Stand Up in It, for the boys and slow roll it for the girls. Yeah, man. See, as men, we think it's cool to be sitting here talking to our sons about, yeah, boy, this is how you get a girl and all that. Man, you talk to your daughters too. Talk to your daughters. Women are sexual. Don't forget, they're sexual. You could talk to them. Just because your daughter, you have a talk about sex with your daughter, doesn't mean you're gonna molest her. All right. And I know we live in a hypersexualized society, man. So, you tell somebody like, oh, I'm going to send my children to an all-boys school. I've said that before when I had an all-boys school. Oh, them boys are going to be touching each other. What? Where does that come from? Because that's your society. Boys can't be around each other without playing with each other. Or a father can't have a conversation with his child about sex without, trying to touch them in an inappropriate way. That's not our culture. We're not working with so much sexual dysfunction and sexual immorality when you start getting into nature-based thinking. You don't have all of that sexual immorality. So you can have those conversations, man. Maybe some of you don't have the conversations because you might try to touch your daughter. Well, you need to go deal with that. You need to be honest with yourself about that. Or you might try to touch your son, You need to be honest with yourself about that. That's male or female, because there's a lot of women out here playing with the children too. That just goes unreported. So I just ask for both sides, man. But you got to be able to, again, like I said, the more you do this work, the more you stay around these rituals and these sciences, the more you'll tend to take on the mindset of them, man. And certain things will just come natural. I'm telling you, it just starts to flow. It becomes a very beautiful thing, because then you start to almost close your eyes. It's like Sister Keisha asked in the chat room a couple of days ago about that game, the movie Assassin's Creed. I didn't answer the thing because I was talking at the time. I saw it afterwards, and she said, did anybody see the movie at the time? I don't think anybody said they saw it. I saw it. I love that movie. Assassin's Creed. Now, I know it's based off of a video game. I don't play video games, so I never saw the video game, and everybody, like, I saw a lot of the comments, people were saying the movie was horrible. I guess based on, the story of the video game. I don't know, but just as a straight movie, anything about Assassins I love. Always have since I was a little boy. I told you, every Halloween when I was allowed to sneak out and do Halloween, because that was my little subversive stuff. Ninja every year. What you gonna be? Ninja. You was a ninja last year. I'm a ninja this year. Every year, ninja. I loved anything that had to do with assassin, hitman, whatever. And coincidentally, now this is a true coincidence, not done with an intentional purpose or anything, as far as I know. Well, you have the Hashashin. The Hashashin is where you get the word assassin. But the Hashashin also translates down into the word or the name Asan, which many of you know is the root of my last name, Asan Anu. Asan means assassin. So you see how spirits orchestrate things in a way, just things get looped and tied in together, like that. So yeah, the Hashashin, they were actually an Islamic cult or a Muslim cult, and they were a cult and a group of assassins. And Hashashin means hash smokers, or literally translates into hash eaters, because it said that they basically would smoke dope all day, and then they would train in the arts of killing. But it was deeper than that. People would say that about them because they feared them, so that was like the way of getting back at them or whatever. But that was the name of that cult, and they always wore black turbans. And it was a brother who put me up on that sign. I'm walking around with that name. I didn't even know the whole story, So that's just to say, don't throw everything out. It's good sometimes to learn your own history. Like if your name is Jackson, find out what Jackson means as a last name or whatever. But there was an elder, one of my elders. He used to say, every time because we used to do drum class together. I'm gonna say this and we're gonna go. And every time I would walk in with my drum, he would do this every class. He'd see me across we were in it's like a cultural center, but we practice upstairs. As soon as I would come at the top of them steps, hooroo! He would do that every time, real loud, hooroo! And one day he said, yeah, man, there was some guys in there who were not acting appropriate, man. So I unstrapped myself from my drum, man, and walked over there ready to beat everybody's behind, man. It was like 4 guys, and I based up on one of them, pushed one of them over, and I was like, yo, get the F out. Because, like, this is a sacred space. We drumming. You ain't acting right. Don't be up in here. Get out. And they just, like, one of the other brothers came over and, like, he tried to, like, soften it up. Was like, you got to understand the brother. Like, man, don't try to soften up what I just said. I meant what I just said, So they eventually left, and he was like, them brothers, man, you never know. They could have came into the knowledge. I was like, yeah, well, people got to learn to wipe their feet before they come up in the house. And I remember saying that to him, like, you can't come up in here any way you want, and then we just hope that the drum's going to hit you a certain way. You wake up in the consciousness. Nah, man, go wipe your feet first. Clean up before you come in the temple. And they wasn't clean. They had to go. So the elder was the one who put me up, who used to always say, hooroo. And he said, yeah, hooroo, man, you always keep your locks tied up. I was like, yeah, for sure. He was like, but I noticed you always wear that black crown. I was like, yeah, I guess. I'm like, go with everything. But he was like, yeah, because it's like the Hashashin, whenever they would do missions, when they were on an assassin mission, the people of the town knew they would get out of their way because they would change into the black turbans. And I was like, huh? So he broke down that whole science. And I was like, huh. And he was like, yeah, because I noticed certain times your energy is different because you wear a white crown a lot too. I was like, yeah, sometimes I wear my white crown, you know. And he was like, but I noticed the days you wear that black crown, you always come in here with that real strong Haru Kuti vibe. You know, he's telling me my own mythology just watching me. I'm not picking up. I'm just functioning like I naturally would. But there was a whole story behind this, which tied into something else. Years ago, I had gotten a reading, and Babalawo had really told me I need to really study Islam real heavy. He was like, you really, really need to study Islam because you have a generational history in Islam. He was like, your Egun have a very deep generational footing in history in Islam. And I'm like, I'll get to that later. Because I grew up studying Islam. So I was like, I ain't going back over there. Next, what's next? So some parts you get reading and you don't really, it's just not as interesting. Yeah, I'm like, I ain't sitting up in no mosque again. I'm not going back up in there. I'm good. You might as well tell me go back to church, player. I'm not doing it. But again, later it kind of played out. It started making sense. Your last name's Hassan, which means assassin. You move like the Hashisin. You got the same type of you're isolated, same type of disposition. You start studying, learning what Ogun is in relationship to Shango, in relationship to Obatala, and their relationship of the different security details that they do for Obatala, the king. Because Shango would be like the Secret Service, Ogun would be like the military, and you start to understand how to weave in and out of different things. It goes deep, but maybe another time we get into all of that. But I'm just giving you an example, of how you can watch, your elders, or they're watching you, and you get different information, man, that you never thought that you would have gotten, and just by living your natural self. Living your natural spiritual self and digging into these values and these doctrines and these principles and really trying to live these principles, how your mythology will begin to unfold in a very organic way. It will begin to unfold very organic. All right. So Anwar said the elite group for the king. Yeah, for sure. Lo says, ever watched the movie Omar Khayyam talks about the assassin? No, I checked it out. Watched the movie Omar Khayyam. Okay, I'll check it out. I know in one of the Mummies, they dealt with that movie, The Mummies, or something. The Mummy Returns, one of them. But they were talking about the assassin. It's hard to get information on. It's not a lot, but I've gotten a lot through different means. But it's not for everybody. Not everybody wants to get around a lot of dope smoking assassins. Maybe that's not what you really want to cuddle to up at night, a book on that. But again, you go by your natural inklings. Your natural inklings. Like I said, every year I'm the ninja. As a little boy, ninja. You don't want to be a kung fu man? No, ninja. But that ninja suit getting a little small for you. I don't care. Ninja. Yeah, I used to sneak over my man's house because his family did Halloween, so his mom used to hook me up, man, because my peeps wasn't really having it. Yeah, man. Live your natural self, man. Be natural. Let your natural mythology unfold and then go beyond it and pay close attention when them elders are watching you, because they always watching. They ain't got that much else to do but watch. And listen to what they're telling you, man, because if it wasn't for that elder sharing that with me, Anu might be a totally different type of place. I don't think it would be as good as it is. I'll tell you that much. Just from that one thing, that elder saying, you always got that black kufi on. You never show your locks. Nah, man, I don't show my locks. Where did I get that from? I just didn't feel to. I felt the difference whenever they were out. All the stairs, everybody would say, you look like a lion. I used to get that all the time. You look like a lion. I didn't know your hair was brown. Man, stop looking at my hair. Let me put this stuff back underneath. Or people want to touch. That'll get your finger broke. Stuff like that, man. Nah, too much energy, too much attention, man. Cover them up. But when I'm on the continent, I would always wear my hair out all the time on the continent. Get even more stares there, but it just felt right. Never wore my hair out in a place I didn't feel safe. Now you think about that. Because I wouldn't wear my hair out 1 block from my own house. You think about that for a second. I never wore my hair out place that didn't feel safe. Sometimes I wouldn't wear my hair out in my own yard. But as soon as I get off that plane in Lagos, the kufi's coming off. The hair is out. I'm good. I'm home. I'm good. Or if I'm in Jamaica, I'm good. You know? Just think about it, man. The naturalness of it all, man. All right. So we're going to head out. Tomorrow's Thursday. We'll be back 1 to 3. We kept it light tonight, right? We kept it fun. Kept it light. We traveled. We talked about Dune, the Bene Gesserit. I might go. Actually, I got Dune on my heart. I think I'm going to watch that tonight. I got it on my hard drive. Check out the Bene Gesserit sisters. I'm telling you. Man. What out, man, I would love to have a harem of Bene Gesserit women. Whew, goodness. Just give me, I don't even need, give me one. But what if I had, if I had like 5, they'd probably kill me. Because they're that wicked. I wouldn't be able to do anything. I had to go real heavy on the rituals. But yeah, maybe 1 maybe 2 I can handle. But, there's some powerful women, man. But, man, what I wouldn't do with a harem of Bene Gesserits. Oh, my goodness. You next time you go to the airport, you see a plane with a big old A on the tail. Is that Anu? Did he just buy an airline? Give me a harem of Bene Gesserit. Next time you go to book a cruise on Expedia, and you see a big Anu cruise line. Whoa, does he have his own cruise line now? What the heck? Next time you planning that vacation and you see a new vacation destination, Anutopia. Did he buy an island? Hey, man, you get some powerful witches on your team, brothers. The sky's the limit. As long as they ain't poop butts, and they down with the program and they're not rebellious and trying to act crazy, you get some strong witches on your team, man. You do anything, man. All right. Peace. See you all tomorrow.